Chapter 205. Palace Lord Qin was currently standing in front of his study, gazing at the mountain peaks outside the Xia capital. However, his eyes were not focused on any of the mountain peaks. His mind was currently on Dongbo Shuang. Snow Eagle, you must succeed. The life and death of half of the transcendence of the Xia people will depend on this gamble. You must not fail. Within the chaotic space layer, Mountain Lord He, Qiu Qi Bai, and Si Kong Yang were anxiously waiting. Other than Dongbo Shuang himself, only the four of them among the Xia people knew about this operation. They were all anxiously waiting. Although they felt that with Dongbo Ying's strength, he should be able to deal with the threat of the demon's nest. However, they were still the elites of the demon army. The Peak Saint Realm transcendents that were sent to try and break the array formation previously could not even break the outermost layer. This proved that the array formation of the demon army was not that easy to break. If they failed, they were not willing to accept the outcome of failure. Senior Snow Eagle. On Snow Eagle's Snow Rock Mountain, a lady was silently worried about Dongbo Ying's safety. In the minor transcendent world, Dongbo Ying stood on a vast wasteland. This wasteland was deathly silent, and there were no signs of life. It was obvious that the demon army had already slaughtered and devoured everything. Lowering his head to look at his wrist, there was no grayish-green bracelet on it. Dongbo Ying's heart tightened. I can only rely on myself now. The true deity weapon that had always been following him was ultimately a demigod. Under the restrictions of the laws of heaven and earth, it was unable to enter this minor transcendent world. This time I can only win. I cannot lose. Dongbo Ying would not allow himself to lose. If he lost, the majority of the transcendence of the Xia people would die in the next 1,000 years. If he won, the losses would be greatly reduced. More than half of them had died. It was easy to say, but in reality they were living lives. People like Pingshan, Ziche Gufeng, Yuanqing, Yufeng, Puyang Bo, and other good friends of his over the years. Even Jing Qiu, whom he cared about the most. Even his father, Dongbo Lai, who was already a legend ranker, and his younger brother, Qing Shi, could all die in the long war. These 5 layers are the greatest threat to the Xia people. It was the biggest disaster. He must be eliminated. Dongbo Ying was very clear about the burden on his shoulders. The task of eradicating the scourge fell on him. If he didn't go, the other Saint Transcendents would have no hope. The wind was howling on the wilderness. Dongbo Ying closed his eyes and made use of the true meaning of star to sense the space around him. With him as the center, the area of 50 kilometers around him was the gravity domain. He had sufficient control over it. As for those 50 kilometers away, their senses were constantly weakening. However, with the help of spatial fluctuations, they were still able to sense extremely distant areas. In terms of sensing waves, the true meaning of star was superior. In terms of forcibly penetrating teleportation, the true meaning of extreme piercing was superior. Amen? Through his absolute control over the surrounding 50 kilometers, Ying was able to sense every single strand of spatial undulation even further away. He was constantly extending his senses further away. Suddenly, about 9,000 kilometers to the right in front of them, there was a silent zone. That region didn't have any spatial fluctuations at all. In his senses, that region was completely silent. It was so silent that it would cause one's heart to palpitate. That's it. Dongbo Ying thought. The demon lair is right there. A minor transcendent world was much smaller than a major world. It was even smaller than a mortal world. Hence, Dongbo Ying didn't need to go anywhere else. Just by standing at his original position and using the true meaning of star to sense the spatial fluctuations, he was able to sense everything within a radius of 30,000 kilometers of this minor transcendent world. In the entire minor transcendent world, there's only this silent region. Dongbo Ying opened his eyes and looked at the vast wasteland in the southeast. It's natural for spatial fluctuations to occur. Since it's completely silent, it's obvious that there's an external force suppressing it. One had to set up a formation. Sealing the space was the most basic. Otherwise, the enemy would be able to easily teleport into their lair. Although there weren't many demigods who could seal space, there were still quite a number of such formations. Transcendent mages who were proficient in this aspect would also create a complete set of formations. After all, it was a necessity for formations. The strength of the demon army's formations would vary according to the strength of the army's elites. Dongbo Ying thought. According to the information provided by Palace Lord Qin, the formation this time is quite powerful. Previously, when I tried to attack it, I wasn't even able to break through the outermost layer. Let's try sensing it. 2 plans. I'll use them according to the situation. Dongbo Shuang made up his mind. He came up with 2 plans based on his strength. However, he still had to decide which one to use according to the situation of the formation. Move out. So, Dongbo Shuang immediately transformed into a streak of light and dove into the depths of the earth. After grasping the true meaning of star, his speed underground was extremely terrifying. The reason why he was flying underground was because he was worried that the demons would send some weaker demons to patrol the area. The demons would also borrow the heaven and earth energy to investigate. Thus, Dongbo Shuang did his best to reduce the possibility of being discovered. Of course, according to the information provided by the Xia people, the demons didn't have to go through the trouble of sending their subordinates to patrol the area. This was very normal. Usually, the demons who built their lair here would have to survive for over 1,000 years. Would they have to borrow the heaven and earth energy to investigate the area? How tiring would that be? Dongbo Shuang and the others were already very tired after traveling around for half a year. Coupled with their absolute confidence in the formation, they were not afraid at all. In just a short while, Dongbo Shuang was only 200 kilometers away from the spatial silence zone. Deep underground, a flow of particles was hidden here. It condensed into a black-robed youth. However, the surface of his body was rippling with the laws of profound mysteries. This allowed him to become one with the earth and not be repelled by it. Amen? Dongbo Shuang began to use his true meaning of extreme piercing to sense it. Heavy power. The power of spatial lockdown, the power of lightning, the power of darkness. These were clearly the defenses of the layers of formations. The demons were living in the residential area in the center of these formations. The surrounding formations were protecting them. Without passing through the obstruction of the formations, one would not be able to harm these demons at all. The obstruction is quite strong. Dongbo Shuang thought to himself, fortunately, my true meaning of extreme piercing can penetrate through 15 kilometers in one go. Under normal circumstances, he would be able to penetrate through 50 kilometers easily. However, under the obstruction of the formations, the weaker formations would not be able to affect the true meaning of extreme piercing, which walked the path of extreme offense. Extreme piercing was purely brute force. It could penetrate through everything. Regardless of the power, the formations would be able to penetrate through them. However, as the obstruction increased, the penetrating distance would decrease. If the formations were truly heaven-defying, even extreme piercing might not be able to penetrate through them. Of course, as Dongbo Shuang's true meaning of extreme piercing continued to improve, his penetrating ability would also become stronger. 30 kilometers. Dongbo Shuang pondered. The silent space covers an area of 60 kilometers. I only need to use extreme piercing twice. Then, I will be able to enter 60 kilometers into the silent space. The first plan will work. Let's begin. Shua. With 2 instantaneous teleportations, Dongbo Shuang appeared on the surface from over 50 kilometers underground. On the surface, the black-robed youth, Dongbo Shuang, appeared out of nowhere. In front of him was a dark aura. Far away from the dark aura was a majestic and luxurious demon palace. That demon palace occupied an area of at least 50 kilometers. Kill. The moment Dongbo Shuang appeared on the surface, he did not hesitate at all. He stared ahead and immediately used extreme piercing. Boom. Dongbo Shuang instantly disappeared. As he pierced through, he felt layers of energy obstructing him, including the blockade of space. However, this was clearly not enough to stop extreme piercing. As a grade 2 true meaning that walked the path of extremes, it was extremely rare even among the demigod demons of the Dark Abyss. It was impossible for the demon army to be equipped with a formation that could stop extreme piercing. The price of doing so was too high. Amen? When he reappeared, Dongbo Shuang was already within the range of a dark formation. Without any hesitation, he once again used extreme piercing. The speed of using extreme piercing twice was astonishing. Dongbo Shuang's eyes lit up. He had already appeared within a luxurious hall. The hall was brightly lit, and there was an ugly demon sleeping soundly. Chapter 206. I'm here. Appearing in the luxurious hall, Dongbo Shuang's eyes were filled with killing intent. Without any hesitation, he immediately used the true meaning of star, gravity domain. The true meaning of star contained the profound mysteries of the laws of star. With Dongbo Shuang as the center, everything within 50 kilometers of him, regardless of whether it was in the sky or on the ground. Boom! The terrifying gravity descended. In a secret room of the demon palace, this was the place where the magic formation was monitored. There were 2 rank 3 demons keeping watch here, and there would be other rank 3 demons taking turns every day. This elite demon team was considered very cautious. They had sent their subordinates to watch over the formation. Once there was any movement, they would immediately report to their superiors. And the first time Ying used his extreme piercing to forcefully penetrate into the array, the 2 demons sensed it. What's going on? There's movement? The 2 of them didn't even have the time to investigate carefully, nor did they have the time to report to the rank 5 Abyss Devils. They didn't even have the time to inform the heart-linking Abyss Devils before the terrifying gravity domain descended. Ying consecutively displayed his extreme piercing twice, and it only took an instant for him to do so. Following that, the true meaning of star descended. According to the internal rules of the demon army, were they sure that there was an invasion? Were they attacked? In any case, once they were sure, they would immediately report to their superiors and inform the heart-linking demon. The heart-linking demon did not hesitate to inform their general. However, Ying was too fast. He was so fast that the 2 demons did not even have time to think. Following that, there was no need for them to think anymore. Boom! The terrifying gravity instantly enveloped the entire demon palace. Even the formation was shrouded. Ping ping ping. The entire demon palace instantly exploded. The sturdy stones and even the extravagant demon palace that was constructed with spells were completely disintegrated. Under this force of gravity, ordinary matter could no longer maintain its normal form, and even the most basic composition began to collapse. The 2 evil demons in charge of monitoring the spell formation also widened their eyes. Their evil demon bodies were extremely tough, and their scales were still intact. However, large amounts of blood still gushed out of their mouths and sprayed out from the gaps between their scales. Their most fatal parts, the insides of their skulls, were also turned into mush by this terrifying gravity. Even though the 2 demons died instantly, their bodies still flew up. Under the influence of the gravitational force, they flew towards Ying at a frightening speed. This is, what? In every corner of the demon palace, the demons were either sleeping, eating, cultivating, or training, including the weak heart-linking demon. Either way, under the sudden gravitational pull, although their demonic bodies were tough enough to withstand some extraordinary saint-tier weapons, their flesh and skulls were much weaker than scales, claws and teeth, and simply could not withstand the terrifying gravity domain. Their flesh was torn apart and their blood was directly sucked out of their bodies. The insides of their skulls were completely turned into mush. Their bodies left the ground and were being sucked towards Ying at a terrifying speed. Ying was originally standing on the ground of the hall. However, everything around him started to crumble and he was now floating in the air. Within 100 miles, many of the tools that were used to set up the formation started to crumble. Some were still in good condition. As for the ordinary soil and rocks, they had completely crumbled. The corpses of the demons flew towards Ying. Those that could maintain their corpses were at least of the 3rd rank. As for the weaker demons, even their corpses were completely destroyed. Transcendence of the Xia people. Among the demons that were sucked over, there were 5 who were lucky enough to survive. They stood in mid-air resisting the gravity. They had all trained their bodies to the highest level, and they had the undying body. Among the transcendents, it was extremely difficult to achieve the undying body. Even for the demigods of the Xia people, it was extremely difficult. However, the talents of the demons were too strong. Their bodies were even stronger than the bodies of the primordial bloodlines. At the Saint Realm, there were those who had trained their bodies to the undying body stage. Their bodies were so strong that even the insides of their skulls would only suffer minor injuries. Furthermore, the injuries would naturally recover at the same time. Some of the transcendent materials and the corpses of the demons flew towards Ying at high speed. Ying stood in mid-air right in the middle. Freeze. Ying chanted coldly. Transcendent Do Chi surged out of his body, and the fiery red Do Chi formed a spherical barrier around him. The surface of the spherical barrier was imbued with the true meaning of stars, causing this seemingly weak Do Chi barrier to be as sturdy as the stars. One after another, the demon corpses and transcendent items slammed into the spherical barrier. However, the thick surface of the barrier did not even budge. Ying waved his hands and the transcendent materials were kept. Some of these materials were used to set up arrays, while others were the personal weapons and storage treasures of the demons. Glancing at the tattered corpses of the demons, Ying snorted coldly. The original attractive force turned into a repulsive force. Boom boom boom. These corpses were like cannonballs flying in all directions at high speed. The true meaning of stars, gravity domain, only had two directions. One was to be attracted by Dongbo Shuiying. The other was to be repelled by Dongbo Shuiying. So powerful. Standing afar in midair, regardless of whether it was the attractive force or the repulsive force, the five of them were still standing in midair. Their bodies only swayed slightly. Who would have thought that he would be able to break the array so easily? Furthermore, with just a single move, those who had not trained in the undying body were all killed. The black-robed demon transmitted. Everyone be careful. This Xia people transcendence must not be underestimated. It's a pity that even Bai Lin died. The red-horned demon transmitted. Bai Lin was also a rank 5 demon, but his body had not been trained to the undying body stage. His death this time was truly unjust. Initially they had 3 rank 5 demons and a few rank 4 demons. With a single gravity domain from Dongbo Shuiying, a large number of them were wiped out. Only 2 rank 5 demons and 3 rank 4 demons were left. Only the 5 of you are left. Dongbo Shuiying swept his gaze across, and a fiery red spear appeared in his hand. The spear shaft seemed to have fiery clouds revolving around it, and the spearhead was as dazzling as the stars. It was the demigod weapon, Stellar Fire Cloud Spear. To a saint, a demigod weapon was still rather useful. However, Dongbo Shuiying currently had the strength of a veteran demigod. Thus, the usefulness of a demigod weapon was greatly reduced. Only a demigod weapon would be able to raise his strength to the next level. Thus, he continued to use the Stellar Fire Cloud Spear. He liked the sharpness of this spear. You are Dongbo Shuiying, right? The red-horned demon stood in the distance. Both of his hands were equipped with malevolent claws. Wu Lang. Dongbo Shuiying's gaze landed on him. The one who killed Sister Ling Shu is you, right? Your Tranquil Sun Province's Cheng Ling Shu? Wu Lang sneered. That's right. It's me. I'm the one who killed a transcendent from the Xia people. She was also a transcendent mage and she had almost escaped from me. However, I still killed her. Today you will die here. What you displayed earlier was the true meaning of gravity, right? Since you could sneak in, you should have grasped some other strange true meaning, right? The true meaning of gravity was a grade 3 true meaning. It could be considered a branch of the true meaning of star. What's the point of saying so much nonsense? All 5 of you will die. Dongbo Shuiying wielded his spear and swept his gaze across the 5 of them. All 5 of them were demons who possessed undying bodies. His darts could not kill them, so he had to fight them in close combat. As for the other 3 rank 4 demons, they were not worth mentioning. Only the 2 rank 5 demons might require some time. Kill? Another black-robed demon suddenly carried a row of scimitars on his back. They looked like fans and there were a total of 19 scimitars. With a wave of his hand, Hua Hua Huan, immediately the scimitars flew out one after another, bringing with them strange undulations. Every single scimitar flew in a strange trajectory, making it hard to judge. They completely defied the laws of flight and their speed was terrifyingly fast. At this moment, this black-robed demon was like a huge spider. The scimitars were like spider webs controlled by him, enveloping Dongbo Shuiying. As he moved, the other 4 demons also moved to surround Shuiying. Umph. Dongbo Shuiying coldly snorted. His gravity domain descended once again. The surrounding space began to distort. Shwa. The crimson-horned demon abruptly appeared by Dongbo Shuiying's side. The spatial ceiling array had been broken. Even though the surrounding space was distorted, the strongest demon in this demon palace, Wu Lang, could still teleport. His huge claws, which were made of weapons, clawed at Dongbo Shuiying. Wherever his claws went, the surrounding space began to shatter. Chapter 207. At this moment, the demons cooperated perfectly, especially the 2 most powerful rank 5 demons. The crimson-horned demon and the black-clothed demon controlled 19 scimitars and attacked Dongbo Shuiying simultaneously. Dongbo Shuiying stood calmly in midair, his eyes filled with unconcealed killing intent. Shwa. He took a step forward and his figure pierced through space, appearing in midair hundreds of meters away. Originally he was surrounded by 5 demons and they were very close to him. But now, Dongbo Shuiying used extreme piercing and appeared in a different direction. At this moment, the 5 demons were all in front of him. Die. Rumble. Dongbo Shuiying extended his right hand, and a dazzling fiery red radiance burst out from his palm. The surging fiery red transcendent battle chi formed a huge pillar of light, fanning out towards his left. The true meaning of extreme piercing shrouded this huge, fiery red pillar of light. Even though its attack range was large, its power was scattered. But it was enough. Imbued with the true meaning of extreme piercing, the fiery red transcendent battle chi spread out in a fan shape at a terrifying speed. Because the distance between them was very short, only the red-horned demon could escape. The other four couldn't escape in time. And although Wu Lang could escape, he did not. It's actually a large area of effect attack? With such a dispersed attack, I want to see how strong it is. If he could not even withstand such a dispersed attack, he might as well admit defeat and commit suicide. This was the best opportunity to observe Dongbo Shui Ying's strength. Wu Lang used his huge claws to block in front of him. The true meaning of space crushing covered his weapon and his powerful demon body, and he faced the dazzling fiery red light pillar head-on. The two true meanings clashed. At the moment of contact, Wu Lang's expression changed. He felt a terrifying law of profound mysteries forcefully suppressing him. Fortunately, it covered an area of 1 to 2 kilometers, and he only suffered a small portion of the attack's power. At this moment, the demonic energy in his body completely erupted, and it was unleashed through the claws of his weapon, bringing with it the true intent of space shattering to resist everything in front of him. It was extremely strenuous to resist. How is this possible? Even a large-scale attack can suppress me? Wu Lang was shocked. If it was a one-on-one, wouldn't I be dead for sure? Wu Lang, who had grasped hold of a grade 3 true meaning, could still defend against a large area of effect attack. However, the other four were in a miserable state. Ah! The black-robed demon cried out in pain as well. The true meaning of the wave domain on the surface of his body could not withstand the attack at all, and it was forcefully penetrated like a sieve. However, the black robe on the surface of his body had completely covered his entire body. That black robe was an extremely powerful defensive demigod treasure, and when necessary, it could completely cover every inch of his body. Although transcendent chi could not forcefully pierce through it, the terrifying penetrative power of the true meaning of extreme piercing. Even with the black robe of the demigod treasure, it was still like the weight of a towering mountain was crashing into his body. His undying body began to break apart, and fresh blood directly spurted out from his mouth. How could he be so powerful? The black-robed demon's eyes were filled with disbelief. This Dongbo Shuiying, how could he be so much stronger than us? This Xia people's transcendent is too powerful. Sir Wu Lang, save me. The other 3 rank 4 demons were in the most miserable state. If it was just a point-to-point attack like a dart, it would have instantly pierced through their bodies. Even if their bodies were temporarily destroyed, the terrifying life force contained in every single particle of their bodies would naturally recover. Such injuries might be severe, but it was much more severe than having their hearts pierced through. However, the regenerative power of their undying body would still allow them to use it 8 to 10 times. But it was different now. This large-scale attack by Dongbo Shuiying this time was mainly targeted at these 3 rank 4 demons. That majestic and thick light pillar swept over in a fan shape. Transcendent chi was actually very scattered. To Dongbo Shuiying, the might of a peak Saint Chi was too weak. He mainly relied on the terrifying might of the true meaning of extreme piercing. The transcendent chi was merely a carrier of the true meaning. Hoo, the fiery red pillar of light crushed the 3 of them. The true intents on the surface of their bodies couldn't even defend against it. They also didn't have a defensive demigod weapon like the black-robed demon, which could cover every part of their body. In an instant, their undying bodies completely disintegrated. At the same time, the terrifying life force of every particle that started to disintegrate rapidly recovered. However, the most fundamental particles that formed their bodies were continuously being destroyed by the laws and profound mysteries of the true meaning of extreme piercing. The fiery red light pillar continued pushing forward for a full second. It only stopped when Dongbo Shuiying could no longer sense the aura of the 3 rank 4 demons. Because of the fan-shaped shockwave, the enormous fiery red pillar of light had already expanded to a diameter of 3 to 4 kilometers. Only after it had been pushed far away did it rapidly fly back. This transcendent chi was now flying back to Shuiying. This transcendent chi took up about 20% of the total chi in his body. Of course, it had to be retracted. Using this technique relied on the might of his true meaning. The consumption of his true meaning was negligible. This was a large-scale attack. 3 rank 4 demons died. Shua. The moment Dongbo Shuiying finished this technique, he used his extreme piercing and appeared in front of the black-clothed demon. The spear in his hand that looked like it was surrounded by a cloud of fire pierced towards the demon. Ah! The black-clothed demon was so frightened that he continued to hide under the protection of his black robe. The black robe covered every part of his body, the material of a demigod weapon. Even Dongbo Shuang could not destroy it. Hong. The spear pierced the black robe with terrifying penetrative force. The penetrative force passed through the robe and into the body of the black-clothed demon. In an instant, the demon's body was completely destroyed. However, this was only the destruction of his scales, muscles, and bones. It was not at the level of particles. This kind of injury, even if he was hit 100 or 1,000 times, his undying body would still be able to recover. What should I do? What should I do? Do I have to hide in the defensive deity weapon forever? But if this continues, my life force will be exhausted sooner or later. The black-clothed demon was anxious. However, he only dared to hide in the black robe and did not dare to show his face. Hong. Without any hesitation, Dongbo Shuang stabbed out with his spear a second time. The moment the spear stabbed out, it suddenly disappeared. When the spear reappeared, it was already inside the body of the black-clothed demon. The spear's true meaning of extreme piercing's laws of profound mysteries instantly destroyed his body, causing every single particle of his body to start disintegrating. How is this possible? The black-clothed demon was extremely frightened. How could my darkness divine robe not be able to block it? Extreme piercing. It could penetrate through everything. It was able to forcefully penetrate through both space and matter before appearing inside the body of the enemy. However, when the spear appeared and descended, it would be repelled by the black robe on the material plane. After all, if it did not repel the black robe, the spear would have to pierce through it on the material plane before it could enter the body of the black-clothed demon. Thus, the moment the spear appeared, the spear and the black robe collided against each other on the material plane. For safety's sake, Dongbo Shuang stuck the spear's tip on the black robe. The spear's tip was formed from the deity world star stone. It was famous for its toughness and sharpness. Even without any spirit arrays, it was already comparable to a mid-grade demigod weapon. At this moment, the spear's tip easily won the contest on the material plane. Its material composition was still intact. However, at the spot where it pierced through, the material of the black robe was pushed away, causing a wound to appear. This was extreme piercing. Wanting to rely on a demigod weapon to protect his entire body and survive? What a joke. One's own strength was the most reliable. Either one's body was strong enough to withstand the attack, or one's true meaning was strong enough to resist the true meaning of extreme piercing. Otherwise, only death awaited. It was actually pierced through? Wu Lang, who was scared out of his wits by the transcendent battle chi shockwave, was about to teleport away. However, he shockingly discovered that Dongbo Shuiying's spear had actually pierced through the darkness divine robe. After all, he was still fleeing. If one observed carefully, one would realize that the spear had actually pierced through the body of the black-clothed demon. It was the compression of the laws of profound mysteries that caused the deity world star stone and the black robe to compete on the material plane. Ultimately, this horrifying result, piercing through a demigod weapon. Chapter 208. A hole appeared on the demigod robe, and the runes on it were damaged. Its power was greatly reduced. Transcendent battle chi exploded from the spear, and with a ping, the robe was blown away. The devil's body was completely destroyed, and the particles were trying their best to recover. Escape. Dongbo Shuiying ignored the devil and looked at Wu Lang, who was teleporting away. Dongbo Shuiying's gravity domain caused the space around him to distort. It was extremely difficult to teleport in such an environment. Furthermore, a normal teleportation distance was already very short. Even an expert would be able to teleport tens of li. Under such circumstances, Wu Lang could only teleport 5 to 6 li. After the previous large area of effect attack, Dongbo Shuiying did not hesitate to use extreme piercing and appeared in front of the devil. He only used 2 spear strikes. The second spear strike pierced through the demigod robe. How short was that? In that short period of time, Wu Lang had only teleported 6 times, and was already more than 30 li away. South, with a step, Dongbo Shuiying appeared in front of Wu Lang. Extreme piercing could cover a distance of 100 li. At the same time, the spear in his hand pierced forward. Facing this terrifying spear strike, Wu Lang was stunned. At Dongbo Shuiying's level, the speed of his spear strike was terrifying. At such a close distance, Wu Lang did not even have time to think. Instinctively, he immediately used teleportation. Shua, Qi. Shuiying's spear pierced out. Closely following that, it pierced into the void. Wu Lang had just disappeared, but he reappeared a meter away. However, his devil head was completely pierced. How is this possible? Wu Lang's eyes widened. Teleportation sounded like it was very fast. But in reality it still consumed time. If the time it consumed was negligible, it would still consume time. For example, when Qi Qiubai and Chao Qing were saving the Xia people, they would not tear through space. Instead, they would teleport continuously. The principle of teleportation was to instantly become one with the spatial fluctuations, and then follow one of the countless spatial fluctuations to arrive at the desired location. Hence, the speed of teleportation was equivalent to the speed of the space ripples. But extreme piercing could pierce through everything. Even spatial fluctuations could be forcefully pierced through. Since it could penetrate, its speed naturally surpassed the speed of spatial fluctuations. Boom! Wu Lang's body completely shattered. Even his particles were shattered and he began to recover. Dongbo Shuiying stood at the side and casually fired a shot. Every time the particles recovered, Dongbo Shuiying would shoot out with his spear, causing the particles to shatter again. Wu Lang's undying body's life force was continuously depleted. How is this possible? I have already escaped into the void, but he can actually pierce through the void to kill me? Wu Lang's soul was attached to every single particle and he could still think. What is this true meaning? He was a powerful tier 5 demon. However, in the vast abyss he was still just a pawn. The information that he could obtain could not even compare to the information that the Xia people had received from the Terrain Shrine and their ancestors. After all, he only lived in that territory and followed the general to fight against the outside world, so the number of demons he came into contact with was limited. He couldn't even come into contact with the truly monstrous abyss devils. Am I going to die? Wu Lang could feel that the life force of every single particle of his body, the most basic composition of his life, was constantly weakening. That human transcendence stood there. Every time his life particles recovered, he would strike with his spear. Who would have thought that I would ultimately die in the hands of a saint from a mortal world? I remember that his name is Dongbo Shuiying. Wu Lang's life force continued to decline. The countless particles were trying their best to recover, wanting to reform into the body of a demon. At this moment, an indignant roar could be heard from the void. What is this true meaning? What is this true meaning? Die. Shuiying thrusted out his 8th spear. This was not a large-scale attack like before. Instead, he condensed his true power into his spear technique, and every single strike was extremely powerful. When the 8th spear was thrusted out, the life force of those particles was finally exhausted, and they could no longer recover. This demon's body completely disappeared, leaving behind only some demigod equipment and other items. This was because every stab had to wait for the particles to recover before attacking again. Hence, killing Wu Lang took about a second. The earth-shattering fiery red transcendent battle chi had also flown to the front of Dongbo Shuiying. Because of the large-scale attack earlier, it took some time for the battle chi to return. Now that the battle chi had returned, it flowed into Dongbo Shuiying's body. He is quite fast at escaping. Dongbo Shuiying looked at the black-robed demon who had turned into a beam of light and fled at high speed. Under my gravity domain he was actually able to fly for 30 li? In a second, if he had teleported, he would have long escaped from Dongbo Shuiying's 50 li gravity domain. However, the black-robed demon was unable to teleport within the gravity domain. He could only fly with all his might. Under the terrifying gravity, he was able to fly a shocking distance of 30 li in a second. But it was useless. Dongbo Shuiying was in control of the situation. As long as the black-robed demon was within 50 li, it would always be within his control. If the black-robed demon was really far away, Dongbo Shuiying would have already thrown a few darts over. Wu Lang is dead. Wu Lang actually died just like that? His true meaning is too terrifying. It should at least be the legendary Grade 2 true meaning. But even a Grade 2 true meaning shouldn't be this frightening, right? The black-robed demon fled in panic. His heart was filled with fear. Wu Lang escaped into the void, yet he was still killed by it. My God of Darkness robe was actually pierced through? What true meaning is this? A Grade 1 true meaning? If it's a Grade 1 true meaning, then it wouldn't be an injustice. A Grade 1 true meaning. A legend among legends. It possessed many unfathomable aspects. The extreme piercing that Dongbo Shuiying had grasped was only one aspect of the Grade 1 true meaning of extremity. If he were to use it while grasping hold of the true meaning of extremity, he would be even more terrifying than the current Dongbo Shuiying. For instance, the extreme piercing that Dongbo Shuiying had formed with water, fire, and wind was 30% weaker than the extreme piercing formed with the 4 elements of earth, fire, water, and wind. Thus, the extreme piercing could still be improved. The complete true meaning of extremity was only one aspect of piercing. There were still many other aspects. It was just that it was too difficult. Being known as the end of everything, the beginning of everything, grasping the true meaning of extremity, was a legend in the countless worlds. Of course, amongst the grade 2 true meanings, the true meaning of extreme piercing was a pure offensive true meaning. Its offensive capabilities were indeed terrifying. But no grade 2 true meaning could be underestimated. They all had their own strengths. You still want to escape? Dongbu Shuiying's voice suddenly rang. The black-robed demon turned his head and saw Dongbu Shuiying appearing behind him. His malevolent demon face was twisted with fear. Terror filled this rank 5 demon's heart. Pooh! With just a single spear strike, the black-robed demon's body disintegrated. Dongbu Shuiying calmly stood in midair, waiting for the particles to recover. Every time they recovered, he would stab out with his spear. Every spear strike was filled with killing intent, hatred, and anger. Sister Lingshu, Brother Zongtu, Brother Ba Ming, I've avenged all of you. Dongbu Shuiying's emotions were boiling. His eyes were slightly moist. These good friends of many years had all been ambushed and killed in the past few days. These rank 5 demons he had killed were all active in the 5 northern provinces. Other than Sister Lingshu and the other 2, there were many other transcendent friends he had drunk with in the other provinces. Even though his relationship with them was not as deep as Sister Lingshu and the others, every single one of them was drinking and laughing with him. His extraordinary memory allowed Dongbu Shuiying to clearly remember every single word they said to him, as well as their expressions when they spoke. We, the Xia people, will never forget your sacrifices. Dongbu Shuiying's final spear strike caused the black-robed demon's body to completely dissipate. He could no longer recover. Sila, the spatial membrane was torn apart. The black-robed teenager walked into the chaotic spatial layer. Sikong Yang, Qiu Qibai, and Mountain Lord he quickly rushed over. How is it? Have we been exposed? Qiu Qibai asked. If they were to be exposed to the demon generals, the other 4 demon bases would most likely retreat. Chapter 209. It shouldn't have been exposed. Dongbu Shuiying said. Shouldn't have. Qiu Qibai, Sikong Yang, and Mountain Lord he hesitated. Dongbu Shuiying explained, I instantly killed all the weaker demons, but there were still 3 rank 4 demons and 2 rank 5 demons that survived. Only after close combat was I able to kill them one by one. I don't know if this heart-linking demon was among the last 5 demons. If he was among them, I'm afraid he would have been exposed. Haha. According to the records, the heart-linking demons are very pitiful. They were nurtured by the Abyss demonic god's cruel secret technique, and a large number of weak demons died tragically. Only an extremely small number survived. Qiu Qibai laughed. The vitality of demons is extremely strong, but they still died tragically because this cruel secret technique targets the soul. Many of the demons' souls could not withstand it and directly dissipated. Even if they succeeded, there would be a large number of secret technique imprints on their souls. Simply put, their souls have already become a kind of communication device. Once they activate the secret technique imprints on their souls, they would be able to communicate even across different worlds. Although the soul became a communication device, it still caused severe damage to the soul. Qiu Qibai said, it is very hard for them to cultivate and become stronger. Mountain Lord he also smiled. The heart-linking demon is almost definitely a rank 1 or 2 weak demon. The possibility of becoming a rank 4 or 5 demon is less than 1 in a million. The possibility of being exposed is extremely low. If we were to be exposed, we can only blame our bad luck. Sikong Yang patted Dongbu Shuiying's shoulder. Snow Eagle, good job. At this moment, Sikong Yang's mood was both happy and complicated. In the past, he was angry at Dongbu Shuiying for being stubborn in his cultivation, and his care and attention towards him had turned into anger. However, 10 years later, when Dongbu Shuiying displayed his astonishing talent on the path to heaven, he finally understood his mistake. And now, Dongbu Shuiying had directly destroyed a demon nest in a minor transcendent world. Regardless of whether he was exposed or not, the greatest threat to the Xia people's transcendence had already disappeared. Because even if he was exposed, the demon generals would be shocked and immediately evacuate the elites of the other 4 demon nests. It's nothing. Dongbu Shuiying said, I only sacrificed some time to fight. Sister Lingshu and many others sacrificed their lives. Qiu Qibai, Sikong Yang, and Mountain Lord he were all silent. 20% of the transcendence of the Xia people had died over the years. Whether it was Mountain Lord He's Black-White Deity Mountain or Si Kong Yang's Water Taoist faction, there were many casualties. Many were familiar to them. That's why I've always been proud of being a Xia people. Mountain Lord He opened his mouth. In the past he had always been calm and indifferent, but at this moment his eyes shone with a dazzling radiance. It is precisely because so many transcendents were willing to sacrifice themselves for the Xia people that we, the Xia people, were able to become the masters of this mortal world. If not for the generations of transcendents fighting bravely, if not for our ancestors who entered the deity realm and still cherishing our homeland, our Xia people would have long been annihilated. Yes. Shuang nodded. These past few years he had heard the news of transcendents dying in battle. Every single piece of news was like a knife stabbing into his heart. It also transformed his heart and he cherished everything in front of him even more. It also made him understand that the reason the Xia people were able to survive to this day was because of the sacrifice of countless Xia people's ancestors. They even sacrificed their lives. If not for the sacrifices of our ancestors, the Xia people would have perished long ago. Perhaps he, Dongbui Shuang, would not have been born. Let's move quickly. Si Kong Yang hastily said, the sooner the better. If the demon general tries to contact the demons in the minor transcendent world but is unable to contact them, that would also expose us. Dongbui Shuang and the rest nodded their heads. Getting rid of a nest was equivalent to getting rid of a group of elite demons. Tier 5 demons were extremely rare. If Zero Wing missed this opportunity, it would be very difficult to come across another one. Let's go to the next location. Oh. In the interlayer of space, a group of 4 people shuttled through the void and rushed to another place. Infernal Palace. Palace Lord Qin was currently standing outside the door of his study room. He stood there silently by himself. The others in the Infernal Palace did not know how nervous the Palace Lord was. Palace Lord Qin was waiting for news for the result. He was afraid that Dongbui Shuiying's attack would fail. After all, no matter how confident he was, the result would always make him anxious. We must succeed. We must break through the demon's array. Palace Lord Qin's heart was filled with hope. We cannot fail. If we fail, our Xia people will be attacked by the demonic clones of the Tier 5 demons. Every second was so difficult to bear. Palace Lord Qin's forehead was filled with sweat. The lives of half of the Xia people was enough to make him nervous. Suddenly a piece of news came. Success. The first demon nest has been eliminated. Dongbui Shuiying's news came. Palace Lord Qin was stunned, followed by ecstasy. Success, success. Ah. That's great, that's great. I knew that Dongbui Shuiying would not let me down. Palace Lord Qin was incomparably excited. Following that, more news came. Old Qin's Snow Eagle succeeded. And he killed all the weak demons in an instant. The demon general should not know yet. Dongbui Shuiying succeeded in eliminating the first demon nest and should not have been exposed. Success. Snow Eagle is indeed amazing. Palace Lord, we should not have been exposed. Prepare to head to the second nest. The news from Si Kong Yang and the other 2 made Palace Lord Qin even happier. Looks like Snow Eagle's first plan succeeded. Palace Lord Qin was overjoyed. Before this operation, only he and Dongbui Shuiying had been preparing. He had also heard Dongbui Shuiying mention 2 plans. The first plan was to eliminate the weak demons at the first moment so that the news would not be leaked. If the formation was too powerful and they could not infiltrate it, they could only use the second plan, a frontal attack. That would definitely be exposed. Very good, it's good that we are not exposed. Kill as many of these demons as possible. Palace Lord Qin's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. These damn demons, how dare they invade the Xia people's world? All of them must be eliminated. Asterisk 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 asterisk. The entire Xia people's world was very peaceful. Although the hidden demons would occasionally sneak attack a few small places, the impact on the entire Xia people's world was negligible. Countless people lived ordinary lives or worked hard for survival or for cultivation. Crying for love, hiding for hatred, scheming for ambition. The countless mortals in this world had their own way of living. But while they were living such lives, they did not know that behind the scenes in this world at this moment, currently, there was a transcendent called Shuiying who, along with 3 other demigods of the Xia clan, were currently attacking demon lairs. Because this time they had succeeded. More transcendents had survived. In the next 1,000 years, the lives of the demons would be even more difficult, and their savagery would be greatly reduced. Hence, the number of mortals that survived was probably in the hundreds of millions. In one of the small transcendent worlds. There was also a demon palace here where a group of powerful elite demons resided. Among them, their leader was the strongest among all the grade 5 demons that had invaded this time, Demon Luo. Chapter 210. In the depths of the majestic demon palace, within the most luxurious palace hall, the doors had long been shut. On the floor of the palace hall, which was about half a kilometer long, sat a demon in golden armor. His entire body was covered with a layer of crimson scales, and he wore golden armor and golden boots. His closed eyelids were suffused with a faint bloody glow. On his head, a pair of crimson curved horns pierced the sky. While he sat cross-legged and meditated, the 2 Tier 4 demons serving him inside the hall did not dare to make a sound. Because Luo's status was too high, even the demon generals would treat him as an equal when interacting with him. He had grasped hold of 2 grade 3 true meanings, one of which had reached the stage 2 realm. What was certain was that as long as he spent some time, he would definitely become a demigod. Furthermore, with his talent, he would be able to fight against the other demon generals very quickly after becoming a demigod. The moment one of his true meanings reached the stage 3 realm, his combat power would be ranked at the top amongst the demon generals. After all, there was a huge difference between grasping hold of a grade 3 true meaning and grasping hold of 2. As long as he was given time to grow, he would definitely become an existence standing at the peak of the demon generals. Naturally, his status was special. The other rank 5 demons would have to be respectful in front of him. Even now, he had the combat power of an experienced demigod. Luo opened his eyes. His blood-colored pupils were filled with a terrifying killing intent. He stood up. It's really boring to stay in this minor transcendent world. Luo swept his gaze across the empty palace hall with a trace of impatience in his eyes. He knew that the 5 demon generals wanted him to stay in the minor transcendent world because they were afraid that he would be killed by the demigods of the Xia people in the mortal world. After all, the demons were currently at a disadvantage. Every bit of power had to be cherished. Luo would most likely have the combat power of a demon general in another 100 or 200 years. Thus, he was ordered to stay in the safest minor transcendent world. Just 5 kilometers away from Luo, in another ordinary palace hall in the demon palace, there were no demons here. After all, the entire demon palace occupied an area of 50 kilometers. There were a total of dozens of demons here. Naturally, many places were empty. 1. A mysterious and vast power descended. Although the evil magic array had sealed off the space here, in the face of this mysterious and vast power, the so-called evil magic array was like an ant in front of a deity. The gap between the two was unimaginably large, and it could not affect this power in the slightest. Suddenly, 5 figures appeared out of thin air. There's a newbie? How troublesome. This is a difficult mission and there's actually a newbie. A man whose body seemed to be made of black metal glanced at the corner, and then transmitted his voice to a handsome young man beside him. Big brother, should we get rid of him first? Our mission is very dangerous and this newbie doesn't know anything. I'm afraid that he will ruin our mission. Although the temple will punish us if we get rid of him, we can bear it. At the same time, his other 2 companions also received his voice transmission. This newbie is quite handsome. I really can't bear to part with him. A succubus girl licked her scarlet lips. I don't agree. The red-robed woman sent a voice transmission. This mission is very dangerous. This newbie was actually chosen by the temporal temple to join us, so his strength is definitely not weak. As long as we use him well, he will be a force to be reckoned with. You guys should understand. If we are careless in this mission, more than half of us will die here. Big brother, what do you think? The black metal man looked at the handsome young man. This newbie appeared here and only calmly observed us. He did not panic at all. Such calmness. I feel that we should temporarily become teammates. The handsome young man transmitted his voice. Their small team quickly came to a decision. The handsome young man smiled and said, "My name is Lai Hua. I believe that you have already received the message that the temporal temple left for you. That's right, you have been chosen by the temporal temple. From today onwards, you will be one of the members of the temporal temple that roams the billions of worlds." Temporal temple? That newbie was a purple-robed young man with long and narrow eyes. The corner of his mouth curled into a smile. I never thought that I would be so unlucky to be forcefully captured by the temporal temple. I've always heard that the members of the temporal temple roamed the various worlds, even the deity world and the dark abyss. But to actually be chosen, it still feels very uncomfortable. Now that spacetime has been locked, we have a period of preparation time. During this period of preparation we will be absolutely safe. The flow of time here is very fast while the flow of time in the outside world is relatively still. The handsome young man said. Let's cut the crap and have a simple chat. First, tell me, your name or code name is fine too. Name? Since I have been chosen by the temporal temple, my name is already a thing of the past. You can call me Blade Demon. The purple-robed young man said. Blade Demon? The handsome young man nodded slightly. The members of the temporal temple usually used code names, and very few used their real names. This was because it was rumored that some powerful gods and devils could obtain a lot of information through their real names. They roamed the countless worlds and experienced too much danger. Therefore, no matter how cautious they were, it was never excessive. I won't ask you how strong you are. The handsome young man said indifferently, I'm afraid that you won't honestly tell me all your methods anyway. Since you have the qualifications to participate in this mission, your strength is definitely not weak. When the time comes, you will act according to the circumstances. After all, you are a newbie and don't have any space-time points. Once the mission fails, you will fall into hell and you will have to undergo 3 consecutive hellish missions. You must succeed in every mission. As long as you fail or die again, your soul will be destroyed. I understand. I will definitely do my best to help you. The purple-robed Blade Demon said, This mission is of the hard difficulty. As a newbie, I do not wish to attempt the even harder hell difficulty. Furthermore, I do not wish to attempt it 3 times in a row. The hellish difficulty mission had a slim chance of survival. 3 times in a row, just thinking about it made one's heart turn cold. Very good. The handsome young man said, Let us first talk about the basic situation of this mission. Mission difficulty, hard difficulty. It is 1 level lower than the hellish difficulty. Under normal circumstances, half of us would die. However, we have made preparations this time. As long as we cooperate well, there is still hope for us to survive. Mission objective. Protect the demon Jie Luo from the pursuit of the Xia people's transcendent, Dongbu Shuiying. Survive for a day and send him safely into the mortal world of the Xia people. Mission background. The rank 5 demon Jie Luo led 2 other rank 5 demons and many other elite demons to build a demon nest. They are waiting for an opportunity to send their magic doppelgangers into the Xia people's world to attack. As for the Xia people's transcendent Dongbu Shuiying, he is about to kill his way into this small transcendent world alone to kill all the demons. The handsome young man said, The mission seems simple, but remember, the mission description is, Jie Luo is leading 2 other rank 5 demons. In the dark abyss, the strong are respected. Since Jie Luo is able to lead the other 2 rank 5 demons, then his strength must surpass ordinary rank 5 demons. My guess is that he should have the strength of a demigod. I'm afraid he is not just at the threshold of demigod. The succubus girl laughed, I live in the dark abyss. Rank 5 demons are very strong. Among them there are many who have the strength of a demigod. He can lead them? I'm afraid there will be a qualitative difference between them and ordinary rank 5 demons. The handsome young man nodded. He is very strong and is leading so many demons. Moreover, he is in his own lair. However, the mission to protect him is actually a hard difficulty. I can only say that this Xia people's transcendent Dongbu Shuiying is very scary. Chapter 211. I have also received this mission notification, the handsome teenager said. The purple-robed Blade Demon listened attentively. The members of the temporal temple roamed the billions of worlds and encountered all sorts of dangers. If they did not receive any mission notification, it would be difficult for them to complete the mission. And if they were strong enough, they would be nurtured by the temporal temple. The temple would not be willing to let them die so easily. Thus, there would be a mission notification. To be able to receive a mission notification meant that this handsome teenager was extremely powerful. The mission notification is, the Xia people's transcendent Dongbu Shuiying has grasped the true meaning of extreme piercing. The handsome teenager revealed a smile. The name Dongbu Shuiying had given him was exactly the same as the one the deity world had given him. Extreme piercing? Is it related to the legendary grade 1 true meaning of extremity? The purple-robed teenager asked. The black metal construct male sneered. Of course it's related. Extreme piercing is a branch of the true meaning of extremity. It is a grade 2 true meaning and it is an offensive true meaning. If not for Big Brother, all of us would have died in this mission. It's almost impossible for us Saint-class transcendents to survive under the true meaning of extreme piercing. Very powerful. The purple-robed Blade Demon was puzzled. How powerful? He had never heard of it before. Extreme piercing is even faster than teleportation. Don't even think of using teleportation to escape. The black metal construct man said coldly, it is able to break through the dual obstructions of space and matter. Even if you are wearing a demigod battle armor, you will not be able to escape. Even if you are wearing a demigod battle armor, it can still enter your body. Your defenses are useless. Furthermore, because it is an offensive true meaning, its offensive power is much stronger than ordinary grade 2 true meanings. In a real battle, this Dongbui Shuiying can appear in front of us instantly and disintegrate our bodies with a single move. Even an undying body is useless. This kind of destruction is on the particle level. Even an undying body cannot withstand more than a few moves. The black metal construct male looked at the purple-robed blade demon. This blade demon was stunned. It was too frightening. A grade 2 true meaning was a legendary true meaning. A purely offensive grade 2 true meaning was even more frightening. The handsome youth replied, we have already paid a huge price to prepare a spell formation, so that this Xia people transcendent cannot force his way through. If we don't stop him, we'll only be defeated one by one. We also have a detailed plan for this mission. When the time comes, you just have to act according to the situation. Our preparation time is almost up. Jiro Luo will soon discover us. Buzzed, the surrounding spacetime began to fluctuate, and the flow of time in the area they were in began to converge with the flow of time in the outside world. In the Demon Palace, Jiro Luo's expression suddenly changed. He could sense a powerful aura fluctuation coming from one of the regions within the Demon Palace. Intruder. Enemy. It must be the Transcendent Xia people. The first to discover it were the two rank 3 demons in charge of monitoring the magic array. The magic array enveloped the entire Demon Palace, including a large area around it. The news was immediately sent to the heart-linking demon. A fat demon was eating and drinking to his heart's content when he suddenly received the news. He couldn't help but be surprised. There's an enemy? This fat demon immediately activated his demonic energy, activating the secret runes on his soul. Buzz. At that moment, the reaction of his soul rapidly increased, allowing him to sense another heart-linking demon beside the general. He immediately reported, a transcendent from the Xia people is attacking. At the same time the heart-linking demon reported, Hong, Hong, Hong. Jiro Luo immediately turned into a stream of light, charging towards the source of the aura fluctuation. A distance of several kilometers was too short for him. With a single glance, he saw 5 existences emitting auras standing on the plaza. With a single glance, he was slightly startled. Men? Succubus? Are they from the metal race? With a glance, Jiro Luo discovered that one of the 5 figures was a succubus from his Abyss Demon clan, while the other black metallic male was an extremely rare metal race life form. Regardless, since they had appeared in his territory, Jiro Luo did not hesitate to send out a punch. His fist was dazzling. Countless golden lights gathered on his fist, causing a mysterious transformation to take place. That fist carried a terrifying power that could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth. It tore through everything that stood in its way, and its speed was astonishingly fast. In practically an instant it blasted over. Its power was so great that, at the very least, it had already reached the level of a veteran demigod. Jiro Luo, don't be in such a hurry to act. We aren't your enemies. A strange fluctuation was transmitted directly into Jiro Luo's mind. At the same time the handsome youth smiled and sent out a punch. Black flame Do Chi flew out from his fist, directly colliding with Jiro Luo's frightening fist. When the two powers collided, a powerful shockwave immediately spread out in all directions, shattering the ground and causing the surrounding walls of the hall to collapse. The handsome youth, who was at a close distance from the shockwave, floated backwards and landed on the ground. Jiro Luo let out a groan. After landing on the ground, he clutched his chest and revealed a pained expression. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He looked at the handsome youth in shock. Because his body had reached the stage 2 realm of the true meaning of golden brilliance, it was extremely tyrannical. No matter how many ordinary rank 5 demons attacked him, he would dare to use his body to withstand it without suffering any injuries. However, in just a single exchange he was actually injured. Of course, with the undying body he could immediately recover, so this kind of injury did not affect him much. Kill? Just as the two of them exchanged blows, the other 2 rank 5 demons and the rest of the demons arrived. Umph. The red-robed lady by the side coldly snorted. Suddenly, A majestic magic power activated the boundless heaven and earth energy. Although these demons could control the heaven and earth energy at this moment, they could not compete with this red-robed lady. In an instant, red lotuses suddenly grew in many areas of the palace that occupied an area of 50 kilometers. These red lotuses abruptly wrapped around the demons that were flying over. In an instant, the two rank 5 demons and the rest of the demons were all wrapped by the red lotuses, and for a moment, they were unable to struggle out. So strong. Luo's expression changed slightly. This red-robed lady was a transcendent mage. Furthermore, she was an extremely terrifying mage. In terms of strength, she might not be any weaker than him. If we were to make a move, Luo, you might still be able to struggle a little. However, your subordinates would probably be dead by now. The handsome young man smiled as he extended his arm, revealing his smooth forearm. On the skin of his forearm there was a strange pattern. Looking at this pattern, one would feel as though they had fallen into an endless space-time whirlpool, causing one's heart to palpitate. Temporal Temple? Luo was shocked. You are reincarnators of the Temporal Temple? However, his hostility had already been greatly reduced. In the countless worlds, in the dark abyss, in the deity world, there were truly peak powers. For example, the Temporal Temple and the Bloodshed Tavern. The existences behind them all stood at the peak of all the worlds. The mighty existence behind the Temporal Temple was known as the strongest existence in the world of spacetime. Even the laws of the material world could not stop that existence. Thus, he was able to capture countless people and put them through countless tempering. He would eliminate the weak and leave behind the strong. Furthermore, he would prepare the best cultivation methods and environment. The reason why those who were chosen were called reincarnators was because every mission they took was filled with the danger of death. Some of them almost died. Every mission was like a cycle of life and death. Thus they were called reincarnators. This sort of selection. This resulted in the strength of the Temporal Temple being very strong. Naturally, they were one of the peak powers in the countless worlds. Actually, the Bloodshed Tavern, which was comparable to the Temporal Temple, as well as the other peak powers, all had their own terrifying aspects. However, in the mortal worlds, the other great powers were at a disadvantage. This was because the mortal worlds belonged to the material world. Deities could not directly descend. Relying on their world projection? Too weak. Relying on their deity avatars? The price was too high. It was extremely difficult to send some treasures into the mortal worlds. However, the Temporal Temple could easily enter the mortal worlds. Of course, under the tacit agreement of the various powers, the Temporal Temple was forbidden from building their own temples in the countless mortal worlds. Another example was the Bloodshed Tavern. They had their own branches in the countless mortal worlds. However, they were forbidden from spreading their religion. Why are you reincarnators of the Temporal Temple getting involved? Luo frowned and shouted. The missions of the Temporal Temple's reincarnators were for them to undergo life and death tempering. Sometimes they would help one side and sometimes they would help the other. The Temporal Temple had even arranged for their own reincarnators to help two opposing sides in a fight. Help you? The handsome youth sneered. You still don't understand? If we wanted to act, we would have done it long ago. You should understand that you are not our match. Luo's expression changed, but he nodded slightly. I believe you. Help me? What do I need your help for? Red Leaf, have you finished setting up the arrays? The handsome youth looked at the red-robed lady beside him. She was a companion with similar strength to him, and he trusted her the most. The arrays that prevent spatial penetration have been set up, the red-robed lady said. She had already started setting up the arrays with the help of the red lotuses that covered the entire demon palace. The other arrays will require some time. Hurry up. Dongbo Shuang should be arriving soon. The handsome youth urged. Dongbo Shuang? Luo was slightly uncertain. Are you talking about the Xia people's transcendent Dongbo Shuang? Yes. The handsome youth nodded. But this Xia people's transcendent only has the strength of a rank 5 demon. Why would he come to my place? Luo frowned. In the middle layer of space, Dongbo Shuang, Qiu Qi Bai, Mountain Lord He, and Si Kong Yang tore through the void and arrived outside the membrane of a minor transcendent world. This is the third one. Dongbo Shuang looked at the huge world membrane in front of him. Just now he had already swept through the second demon nest. Everything went smoothly. Although a rank 5 demon tore through space and tried to escape, Qiu Qi Bai and the other 2 demigods were guarding the corresponding area outside. He had walked right into their trap. I'm going in. Dongbo Shuang smiled and tore through the spatial membrane. Be careful. Qiu Qibai reminded, don't be careless just because everything went smoothly. I understand. Dongbo Shuang took a step forward and entered the minor transcendent world, disappearing from their vision. Chapter 212. In the desert, Dongbo Shuang walked out of a spatial tear. He closed his eyes and borrowed the true meaning of star to sense the surrounding space. He was able to sense his surroundings. It's 6,000 li ahead. Dongbo Shuang immediately confirmed the exact location. That area was sealed and he could sense that the space there was deathly still. At the same time, his Qi avatar in Snowrock Castle immediately sent a message over. Qiu Qibai, Si Kongyang and Mountain Lord He, who were in the middle layer of space, immediately tore through the void and rushed to that location. They stood guard at the spatial zone corresponding to the demon lair. So, Dongbo Shuang immediately dove into the depths of the earth and rushed towards his target with his maximum speed. A distance of 6,000 li was nothing to the current Dongbo Shuang. He flew at high speed underground. With the true meaning of stars' control over the earth, not only were the rocks and soil not obstructing him, they even assisted him, allowing him to fly at a terrifying speed. I've arrived. Underground, the flowing light turned into a black-robed youth. Amen? Dongbo Shuang started to sense the area carefully. He used the true meaning of extreme piercing to sense the spatial zone around his target. He could feel the layers of obstruction sealing the area. However, he did not care about these. Very soon, Dongbo Shuang's expression changed. What's going on? Why is there such a turbulent energy? 7 different energies were intertwining like ropes. They were incomparably tough and vast. He could not pierce through them at all. Why is there such a formation? The previous 2 demon lair did not have such a formation. Dongbo Shuang frowned. Moreover, I feel that the demon army would not have much use for such a formation. Dongbo Shuang had a feeling that he was being targeted. A ripple suddenly spread out from the demon palace. It passed through the sky and penetrated deep into the ground. Naturally, it swept past Dongbo Shuang. I've been discovered? Dongbo Shuang was also very calm. This is strange. I was actually discovered in advance. Moreover, the formation here is also able to restrict my extreme piercing? Since we can't sneak in directly, we'll crush them head-on. So. His figure flickered, and in just 2 teleportations he was already on the ground. Right in front of Dongbo Shuang, shrouded in a layer of dark mist, a devil palace that occupied an area of hundreds of miles could be vaguely seen. Moreover, there were all kinds of chaotic and turbulent powers that could not be seen by the naked eye around the demon palace. It was this power that prevented Dongbo Shuang from sneaking in. I've been discovered in advance, and this demon's lair has a formation that just happens to restrain my penetration. Dongbo Shuang immediately informed Palace Lord Qin, Qi Qiubai, and the others. Something doesn't feel right. Since we've been discovered, I'll just attack them head-on. There's a formation that can restrain you? We rushed here immediately after the first 2 lairs were destroyed. Even if we sent the formation, it wouldn't be this fast. How could this be? Is it because this lair is special? All of them were confused. Snow Eagle, be careful. Your safety is the most important. Now that we've succeeded, killing a few more demons is a small matter. Palace Lord Qin instructed. Qi Qiubai and the others also instructed. They could not help much now, and Dongbo Shuang could only rely on himself in the minor transcendent world. Since we've been exposed, I'll immediately send a few more demigods over to help. After a simple exchange. With a group of Xia people demigods guarding outside, Dongbo Shuang was not worried at all. He knew that his opponents were the ones inside this demon palace. Since we've been discovered, there's no rush to act. Let's investigate first before acting. Dongbo Shuang made use of the true meaning of star to control the surrounding 50 kilometers, and carefully sensed the situation. What? A transcendent attack from Xia people? The temporal temple is here to protect you? When the 5 demon generals received the news from Jier Luo, they were shocked. The temporal temple could peer through time and space to see what had happened in the past. One must know that the past could not be changed. The future was uncertain. As long as the temporal temple was willing to investigate, they would be able to find out what had happened in the past. Since they had arranged for this mission, it was obvious that the temporal temple was certain that the Xia people had the absolute advantage in terms of offense. They immediately contacted the other demon lairs. No response. 2 lairs did not respond. They actually destroyed 2 lairs without a sound. They were truly shocked by the result of this contact. They had sent a total of 5 teams to 5 minor transcendent worlds. Moreover, each team had 3 rank 5 demons as well as a few arrays from the demon army. But now, the Saint Transcendent of the Xia people was actually able to destroy 2 lairs without the heart-linking demon sending any news? This was too terrifying. Flee, flee, quickly flee. The 5 demon generals ordered. The other 2 teams immediately followed the orders and retreated. After all, the number of demigods of the Xia people was limited. Furthermore, the minor transcendent worlds were too big. It was unrealistic to completely seal off a minor transcendent world from a space layer. Chiqiu Bai and the other 2 only followed the information provided by Dongbu Shuiying and guarded the corresponding positions of the demon lairs. Under the pursuit of Dongbu Shuiying, the demon lairs had fled in panic, allowing them to wait for their prey. But without Dongbu Shuiying's pursuit, the demon lairs could casually tear through the spatial membrane of the minor transcendent world and leave. There was no way to seal it. Secondly, among the demigods of the Xia people, there were also people from the demonic faction. That was why this operation was so secretive. Even Si Kongyang and the other 2 who were extremely trusted, only knew about the operation at the last moment. If they were to inform the demonic faction, the demon faction would have long since retreated. I can't escape. Dongbu Shuiying has already arrived. He is just outside the array. He is currently observing and is not in a hurry to act. Jie Luo stood there, while the heart-linking demon controlled his demonic energy to form a huge illusion. Within the illusion, 5 demon generals could be seen. Dongbu Shuiying? You are saying that the transcendent from the Xia people is Dongbu Shuiying? The 5 demon generals were startled. Are there any other Xia people? No, there is only Dongbu Shuiying. According to the people from the temporal temple, Dongbu Shuiying came alone. Although Jie Luo was somewhat unconvinced, he still replied honestly, the temporal temple's reincarnators are much stronger than us. But to deal with Dongbu Shuiying is still extremely dangerous. He has already started his attack. Jie Luo immediately said. I don't have much time to say. The 5 demon generals were anxious and helpless. They had no other choice. It was impossible for them to foolishly charge over. Selfishness, cunningness, and cruelty were the nature of demons. They could guess that the demigods of the Xia people would definitely be guarding outside the minor transcendent world. Would they be courting death? Dongbu Shuiying observed for a while but did not gain much. Who cares? Dongbu Shuiying stood there and extended his right hand. He raised his index finger and middle finger and pointed towards the demon palace that was shrouded in black fog. Xiu, xiu, xiu. Strands of battle chi flew out from Dongbu Shuiying's 2 fingertips. Every strand of battle chi contained the power of the true meaning of extreme piercing. It directly collided with the spirit design in front of it. Hong hong hong, every attack had the power of a veteran demigod. Furthermore, the laws of profound mysteries were extremely terrifying, causing destruction from the deepest level. Their efficiency was also astonishing. The array was also having a hard time under such attacks. Immediately, it expended its energy to defend. Xiu xiu xiu. Dongbu Shuiying just stood there. His index and middle fingers continuously shot out strands of transcendent battle chi. He was prepared to use this move to destroy the array. Chapter 213. As the attack on the array continued, Palace Lord Qin sent another 3 demigods to meet up with Chiqiu Bai and Si Kongyang. How many demigods did the Xia people have? At this point, the news could no longer be kept a secret. Furthermore, this operation had already been exposed and all the demon generals knew about it. There was no point in keeping it a secret anymore. Thus, when Palace Lord Qin sent City Lady Bu and the 3 demigods, he did not request for it to be kept a secret. What? Snow Eagle grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning? On a flower boat, the bald and skinny old man Chao Qing was originally happily drinking wine and watching the beauties dancing on the boat. Of course, he was also borrowing the world energy to search for traces of demons within a 500-kilometer radius. But now, Si Kongyang's transmission had him in disbelief. He grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning? Is this real? Old man Chao Qing continued asking, why was there no news of Snow Eagle grasping hold of the embryonic form of a grade 2 true meaning? Now you're suddenly telling me that he grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning? Brother Chao, how could I lie about such matters? Actually, back in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world, Snow Eagle had already grasped hold of the embryonic form of a grade 2 true meaning. But you also know how big the impact of this matter is. In the entire history of the Xia people, there was only one such person. Once the demonic faction and Sorcerer Palace knew of this, they would definitely spare no effort to kill Snow Eagle. Thus, we did not dare to make it public. Right, you guys did the right thing. Then why are you telling me now? Old man Chao Qing continued asking. This time, Snow Eagle killed his way into the minor transcendent worlds alone and destroyed many demon lairs. You should know of this as well. The Abyss demons have built a total of 5 lairs in the minor transcendent worlds. 2 of them have already been destroyed. They are currently attacking the 3rd one. But the 3rd one is slightly special. This matter has already been exposed and the demon generals already know of it. Thus, this matter is no longer kept a secret. Haha, so that's the case. Even the demon generals know of it. This old man only has the chance to find out. Old man Chao Qing grinned. This caused the dancing beauties and the musicians on the flower boat to feel puzzled. Why was the old man laughing like a fool? However, since the old man was paying them, they didn't dare to say anything. Tell the Snow Eagle to be careful. This 3rd fiend lair is somewhat special. His safety is the most important. Old man Chao Qing transmitted. He is still young now, but in a few hundred years he will truly sweep through the world. Even if all the other demigods work together, they wouldn't be a match for him. What demon generals, what demonic faction? They are no longer threats. Old man Chao Qing was in high spirits. In history, when the ancestor of the Xia people with a grade 2 true meaning was born, the Xia people were invincible in that era. This was very normal. For example, the birth of gods? For example, the birth of a heaven-defying demigod? They would make their race invincible for an entire era. In history, the demonic beast clan also gave birth to a deity, allowing the demonic beast to be invincible for an era. The Xia people could only hide in the infernal realm. Transcendent, or even God. All of them cultivated by themselves. Thus, their individual combat power could be very terrifying. It was very normal for one person to sweep through a group of powerful abyss demons. Dongbo Shuiying had just grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning, but he was already showing signs of being extraordinary. With his own strength, he was able to sweep through a group of powerful abyss demons. He did not even need to condense a true deity heart. As long as his grade 2 true meaning reached the stage 3 realm, he would be able to completely suppress an era. Invincible for an era. This brat is really amazing. Old man Chao Qing grinned. At this moment, there were other demigods from the Xia people who were discussing this matter with him. Almost every single demigod from the Xia people, other than those from the demonic faction who were normally loyal to the Xia people, were incomparably excited. The birth of such an existence meant that the Xia people would soon be invincible for an era. Being invincible for an era was an extremely delightful matter. The foundation of the Xia people would also become stronger during this period of time. The days of the Xia people would also become more comfortable. Back then, I could already tell that this brat was not ordinary. My foresight is still not bad. Old man Chao Qing was extremely pleased. He could feel himself gradually aging. In fact, seeing the demons descend before his death made him extremely sad and indignant. Because the demons' descent would cause a large number of transcendents from the Xia people to fall. Countless mortals would die. His heart ached. But he was powerless. He could only do his best to kill the demons. He could not change the situation. But today's news had made old man Chao Qing incomparably happy. Firstly, the demons' nests were destined to be destroyed. Those that were not exterminated would take the initiative to retreat. The number of transcendents from the Xia people would greatly decrease in the future. Furthermore, Dongbo Shuiying's growth had sounded the death knell for the demon generals. It had also sounded the horn of invincibility for the Xia people for an era. Extraordinary people do extraordinary things. That time he was scolded badly by Sikong. I was afraid that he would not be able to recover from this setback. Who would have thought that this brat would be so calm? Furthermore, he did not change his mind at all. He walked his own path wholeheartedly. That was probably the case. After which, he grasped hold of the embryonic form of a grade 2 true meaning. Chao Qing quickly deduced. It's a pity that this matter was kept a secret. Otherwise, I would have definitely taken a look at Sikong's face to see if it was swollen. Chao Qing laughed heartily. He was extremely pleased. This day was the happiest day in the past 1,000 years. Even though he was about to die of old age, he was able to witness the rise of a peerless character destined to leave his name in the history of the Xia people. He was also able to witness the prosperity of the Xia people for thousands of years to come. Not only Chao Qing, but the demigods of the Xia people were also incomparably excited. This joyous event was truly unexpected. There were no signs of it at all. They all understood that following the rise of Dongbu Shuiying, the entire world situation would change. Originally, the world was in a precarious situation. But now, the power of the Xia people would continue to rise until they could completely suppress the demons and the demonic faction. Of course, they were also slightly worried about the situation within the minor transcendent world. After all, this third demon nest seemed to be somewhat special. However, due to their absolute confidence in grasping hold of a grade 2 true meaning, they also believed that this attack, at most, there would be some troubles. Dongbu Shuiying's life should not be in any danger. They were looking forward to it. The 5 demon generals were also looking forward to it. The demonic faction would also be enraged when they received the news. The Xia people had confidence in Dongbu Shuiying. As for the 5 demon generals and the demonic faction, they were placing their hopes on the Temporal Temple's reincarnators. The Temporal Temple's reincarnators traversed the millions and millions of worlds. Any team of reincarnators could not be underestimated. They all had the possibility of creating miracles. They also believed that since the Temporal Temple had arranged for this mission, this team should have the strength to complete it. Looking forward to it. Both sides were looking forward to it and waiting. The minor transcendent world could only be entered by Saint Transcendents. Now, how many Saint Transcendents were arranged to enter? Even if they desperately sent rank 5 demons in, it would be pointless. Furthermore, the demigods of the Xia people were still standing guard outside. Sending rank 5 demons would most likely be sending them to their deaths. Within the minor transcendent world. Hong Hong Hong. More than half of the array covering the demon palace had already been destroyed. The remaining array was on the verge of collapse, and its energy was being rapidly consumed. Chapter 214. Today was the second chapter. We can't hold on for much longer. The energy of the array will be depleted soon and it will naturally collapse. G.R. Luo's blood-red eyes were filled with anxiety. We can only face it head-on. For this level of array, demigod transcendent mages or demigod demons could use their own energy to sustain the array. However, in this small transcendent world there was no demigod. G.R. Luo and the reincarnators of the Temporal Temple, although they had high cultivation bases, their energy had yet to reach the demigod realm. They were unable to supply the array. Although the Temporal Temple's team had some treasures, they had their own arrangements and would not waste it on an array that was destined to be broken. Wasting more energy would only buy them some time. What's the point of saying such nonsense? You should make use of this opportunity to observe the strength of the Xia people's transcendent Dongbu Shuiying. The handsome youth Lai Hua said coldly, when the time comes you can be prepared. G.R. Luo did not explain but stared outside. Every strand of Do Qi shot out and every attack shocked him. In terms of the power of each strike, it was probably equivalent to his own strength. However, the laws of profound mysteries were much stranger. My true meaning of golden brilliance was comprehended when I was weak and watched the battle between the 2 great demon god. That was how I managed to reach where I am today. G.R. Luo gritted his teeth unwillingly. However, he was a human living in the mortal world and could not have seen a battle between gods. He actually grasped a true meaning that was more profound than mine? Back then G.R. Luo was still very young and had just been born. He was hiding in the endless blood-red wasteland, struggling at death's door. He was afraid that he would be killed and eaten by other demons. However, one day, 2 terrifying demon gods had a huge battle. The battle scene was incomparably terrifying and the shockwaves spread in all directions. Countless demons died because of it. As G.R. Luo was very far away, although he vomited blood when the shockwaves reached him, he was not in danger of dying. At that time he watched in shock. He saw a black sun. That black sun was faintly intertwined with countless black lightning bolts, causing the black sun to have an incomparably terrifying might. That scene, he would never forget it. As he cultivated, he used that terrifying black sun as a reference and comprehended the true meaning of golden brilliance. This was a powerful grade 3 true meaning. However, he felt that there was still a huge gap between him and the black sun. Thus he continued to comprehend it. Now that he had grasped hold of the grade 3 true meaning, the true meaning of Space Edge, he wanted to fuse the true meaning of Space Edge with it. He wanted his true meaning to evolve, to get closer to that black sun. I do have a reference, but he's a human from the mortal world, yet. G.R. Luo was truly unwilling to accept this. No matter how unwilling he was to admit it, he understood that this Xia people's Dongbu Shuiying's true meaning of extreme piercing was much stronger than his. Just by observing the profound mystery of extreme piercing from afar, he couldn't help but feel apprehensive. At this moment, The team of reincarnators from the temporal temple had complicated feelings when they saw this scene. I traveled to many worlds and was heavily nurtured by the temporal temple. I've grasped hold of 4 different grade 3 true meanings, and finally they touched upon each other and evolved, allowing me to grasp hold of a grade 2 true meaning. The handsome teenager Lai Hua had a complicated look on his face. How much have I experienced? I can choose any deity grade secret technique I want. I've even watched the battles between some magnificent existences. I've also experienced the cultivation scenes and even had the personal guidance of a deity. But what about him? He's just a brat from the mortal world. What kind of fortuitous encounter could he have? Lai Hua felt complicated. There was nothing he could do about it. Sometimes there were differences between transcendents. Some transcendents had a terrifying level of concentration and comprehension when it came to cultivation. In his experience of traveling to many worlds, he had heard of a legend before. There was once an ordinary sky realm reincarnator. Amongst the countless reincarnators, this reincarnator was too common. He did not have any heaven-defying performance when he went through missions. He was very ordinary, but on his 5th mission. That time he entered a mortal world. To conceal his identity while completing the mission, this brat had disguised himself as a woodcutter. Furthermore, he had become familiar with some of the woodcutters. When the mission was about to end, one of the woodcutters actually helped him regain his freedom. That's right. Reincarnators had the chance to regain their freedom, but the price was huge. They went through dangerous missions again and again. Although they survived, their strength continued to grow. Even though they survived, many of them still wanted to regain their freedom. However, the price was too high. Of course, the price for a sky realm reincarnator to regain his freedom was equivalent to the entire fortune of a demigod existence. The wood-chopping old man had easily paid the price. Furthermore, that reincarnator regained his freedom. After cultivating with that old man for 30 years, he had grasped hold of the grade 1 true meaning, the true meaning of splitting heavens. That old man was a terrifying existence. He was a big character in the deity world. That mortal world was under his complete control. It was his backyard. During the simple exchange with the woodcutter, this powerful existence from the deity world had clearly seen through the frightening potential of this sky realm transcendent. Furthermore, this transcendence path was extremely suitable for him. One had to know that it was not easy to find a good disciple. Forcefully giving a disciple a path, even if it was the path of a grade 1 true meaning, the disciple might not even be able to reach the 2nd level of the realms of myriad existences. That powerful existence from the deity world had not been able to find a disciple that could satisfy him. Thus, when he met a suitable disciple that resonated with his own path, he would naturally groom that disciple. Thus, he immediately helped him regain his freedom. An ordinary reincarnator, because of his potential being discovered by a powerful existence from the deity world, only took 30 years to become a legendary genius who grasped hold of a grade 1 true meaning. Thus, envy and jealousy were useless. This Xia people's transcendent Dongbua Shuiying did not have the guidance of a powerful existence. Instead, he slowly cultivated in a poor corner of the mortal world. Yet, he had grasped hold of a terrifying true meaning like extreme piercing. Would jealousy be of any use? He has grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning. I have also grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning. For this battle, I have made ample preparations. Perhaps this poor transcendent will die in my hands, Lai Hua thought. Of course, even though he was looking forward to killing a genius, he understood that since this mission was classified as a hard mission, this Xia people's transcendent Dongbua Shuiying was not as simple as he seemed. If that was the case, this made him even more envious. For the sake of grasping hold of a grade 2 true meaning, he had spent too much time fusing 4 grade 3 true meanings together before he succeeded. How old was Dongbua Shuiying? How much experience did he have? Hong hong hong, one of the formations finally collapsed with a loud bang. Soon we can't hold on any longer. He's about to reach. Jier Luo looked at the team of reincarnators from the temporal temple. At this moment he did not place his hopes on the other demons under him. Are you guys confident? Don't worry. We have prepared a 3-pronged plan. So what if it's a hard mission? He can still die in our hands, the black metallic male said confidently. God General. The handsome teenager Lai Hua frowned. Don't underestimate this Dongbua Shuiying. Everyone prepare yourselves. Red Leaf, we need you to control the arrays. Don't worry. The red-robed girl nodded slightly. The handsome teenager nodded as well. Let's follow the first part of the plan first. We must kill him in one go. Emin, the other 4 nodded in agreement. Hong, following the sound of the arrays collapsing, Both the demons and the reincarnators from the temporal temple felt their hearts tighten. The heart-linking demon, who had long hidden himself far away, transmitted a message to the demon general. General, the arrays have been destroyed. Dong Bo Shuang is already killing his way over. Chapter 215. Following the advancement of the array, Dong Bo Shuang got closer and closer to the demon palace. As he got closer, the gravity domain enveloped the experts within the demon palace. Within the gravity domain, these experts were being observed in detail. There are humans? Dong Bo Shuang was shocked. Why would humans appear within the demon palace? That black metallic male doesn't look like a human, nor does he look like a demon. This observation caused Dong Bo Shuang to feel a knot in his heart. My operation this time was extremely fast. Even if the demon generals sent reinforcements, they shouldn't be this fast. Furthermore, it is unlikely that the demon generals would send human transcendence. Dong Bo Shuang used the gravity domain to observe the three humans. They were the handsome youth, the red-robed woman, and the violet-robed man. There were only so many transcendents from the Xia people. Saint transcendents were even rarer. He had seen all of them before, but these three weren't among them. Could they be reincarnators from the temporal temple? Dong Bo Shuang guessed. After reading through a large number of scrolls, one would understand one thing. In the mortal world, if one were to meet an unfamiliar expert or an expert that shouldn't exist, one would immediately suspect that they were reincarnators from the temporal temple. Although the Bloodshed Tavern and some other peak powers were comparable to the temporal temple. However, it was extremely difficult for other powers to send experts into the mortal world. Only the temporal temple had countless members that roamed the billions of worlds, even the deity world and the dark abyss. Could it be that the temporal temple had designed my attack on Demon Jier Luo as a mission for their subordinates to train? Dong Bo Shuang thought. I have to be careful. The appearance of the unfamiliar expert caused Dong Bo Shuang to be on guard. So, when the array completely collapsed, Dong Bo Shuang transformed into a ray of light and flew over. Dong Bo Shuang is here. The handsome youth, Lai Hua, looked at the human transcendence of the Xia people flying over and transmitted his order. Execute the first part of the plan. Demon Jier Luo, the red-robed woman, the violet-robed youth, the succubus girl, the black metal man, and the other demons all looked on with serious expressions. Activate the formation. The handsome youth transmitted. Activate. The red-robed lady did not dare to delay any further. Although Dong Bo Shuang had destroyed the array, he was still able to destroy it. However, there were some spirit designs that did not directly block it. For example, there were formations that could seal space, or prevent extreme piercing. If Dong Bo Shuang were to simply fly, he wouldn't be obstructed at all. Dong Bo Shuang instantly flew into the vicinity of the demon palace. Suddenly, the sky started to change color. A terrifying blood-red energy started to spread out, causing the entire sky to turn blood-red. Clearly, the formation had been activated. Boom. Dong Bo Shuang landed on the ground in front of the entrance of the demon palace. Without any hesitation, he activated his gravity domain. An incomparably terrifying gravitational force instantly enveloped everything within 100 miles of Dong Bo Shuang. This area was like a perfect sphere. The majestic demon palace started to crumble. The gravitational force was so terrifying that not only did it shatter into dust, even the most basic material was destroyed. Clearly, under such a gravitational force, even the most basic material could not be maintained. The naked eye could see the space distorting. The gigantic demon palace started to explode one after another before turning into nothingness. It was hard to see with the naked eye. No, not only did the fat heart-linking demon and the other weaker demons have their weaker organs shattered, even their scales and other parts of their bodies started to shatter. Their bones started to break and their bodies started to disintegrate. Only rank 3 and rank 4 demons could maintain a complete corpse. In an instant, only Jier Luo and the other 3 rank 5 demons and 1 rank 4 demon were left. Ping ping ping. Large amounts of materials used to set up the formation started to shatter. The gravitational force was too terrifying. Without sufficient stability, it was impossible for anything to remain intact under this kind of gravitational force. The blood-red color that had started to spread across the sky completely dissipated, disappearing without a trace. Not good. The succubus girl was shocked. Her undying body was able to withstand it. The formation has been broken? The purple-robed blade demon, who was in charge of acting according to the situation, felt his heart tighten. Even a fool could see that under this terrifying true meaning of gravity, many of the tools used to set up the formation had been destroyed. Naturally, the formation was useless. Damn it. The handsome youth's face turned ugly. When this terrifying gravitational force descended, his heart sank. Although this Xia people's transcendent Dongbu Shuiying had expected that extreme piercing would not be his only technique, he did not expect it to be a domain-type true meaning like the true meaning of gravity. This type of true meaning was weaker in terms of pure offense or defense. However, it was extremely terrifying in terms of domain effects. Furthermore, from the strength of the gravitational force, his true meaning of gravity should be close to the stage 2 realm. The handsome youth thought to himself. He was knowledgeable and could tell that this gravitational force was at least twice as strong as the true meaning of gravity that had just been grasped. He estimated that it was equivalent to the stage 1 large success stage and was about to break through to the stage 2 realm. However, he did not know that this was because this gravity domain was executed by the true meaning of star. Just like how the moment one grasped the true meaning of extremity, the power of extreme piercing would increase explosively. By the same logic, the gravity domain that was unleashed by the true meaning of star was much stronger than the true meaning of gravity alone. Many true meanings of the same grade could complement each other. But the moment one broke through, it would be a qualitative change. Grade 3 true meanings were very common. For example, the Xia people's world had Qiu Qi Bai and the beast race's great elder. But in the entire history of the Xia people, there was only one person who had a grade 2 true meaning before Dongbu Shuiying. As for a grade 1 true meaning, the powerful existences of the deity world had lived for many years to find a good disciple and nurture a grade 1 true meaning into a legend. True meaning of gravity? I hate the true meaning of gravity the most. The black metal construct male's body flew uncontrollably towards Dongbu Shuiying. Following that, he tried his best to defend himself before he could stabilize himself. God General, be careful. The handsome youth transmitted. Hide further away and don't participate in the battle. Amen. The black metal construct male was extremely bitter. He was a member of the metal race. With his tyrannical body and his true meaning, he could be considered a valiant general in the team. But as a member of the metal race, his body also had a problem. It was extremely heavy. His body weight was 100 times heavier than a human of the same size. During normal battles, he had great strength, tyrannical body, and ferocious true meanings. But now, because his body was too heavy, under the same gravity, his body weight produced a gravitational force that was 100 times heavier than that of others. This made it very difficult for him to maintain his body. How could he fight? With a single move, he had caused all of them to lose their threat. You guys are from the Temporal Temple? Dongbu Shuiying shouted, causing the expressions of the handsome youth and the other four to change slightly. From their expressions, Dongbu Shuiying was able to confirm his guess. Truly extraordinary. All of you are able to survive. Although he said that, he was still flying at high speed to the side. With the help of the gravity domain, he had long discovered the array preventing his extreme piercing. The most important part of the array was the 4 array plates. Those array plates even had the effect of sealing space. He wants to break the array. The red-robed lady transmitted anxiously. Once the array plates were broken, as long as one array plate was broken, the Xia people's transcendent extreme piercing would no longer be able to stop it. The offensive power of extreme piercing was too terrifying. Execute the second plan. The handsome youth transmitted anxiously, feeling bitter in his heart. It was just like how Dongbu Shuiying liked to use the first plan when attacking the Demon Palace. The first plan was the most perfect and efficient one. Their team was equipped with a total of 5 arrays. But now, out of these 5 arrays, only one was still functioning while the other 4 had been destroyed. The first plan was destroyed before it could even display its true power. All right. The red-robed lady did not hesitate to control the array. Boom, 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 boom. An endless amount of life force gathered, forming a total of 9 gigantic green vines that were even taller than the Snowrock Mountain in Shuiying's hometown within a radius of several tens of kilometers. These 9 terrifying vines had a large number of vines on them. In an instant, they surrounded Dongbu Shuiying from all directions. Dongbu Shuiying could only feel the sky turning dark. He could not see anything else and could only see countless vines and leaves enveloping him. Chapter 216. The 9 huge vines seemed to connect the heavens and the earth as they rapidly closed in on him. This caused Dongbu Shuiying's expression to change. One look and one could tell that these vines possessed boundless strength. It would be troublesome if he were to be entangled by them. Mage. Dongbo Shuiying glanced at the red-robed lady who was standing furthest away. If a powerful transcendent was equipped with powerful equipment and arrays, the threat he could unleash would be comparable to a few transcendent knights of the same level. Repel. Dongbo Shuiying willed. The direction of the gravitational force immediately changed. Originally, the gravitational force was directed towards Dongbo Shuiying, but now it was directed in the opposite direction. The 9 huge vines that were moving at high speed were too huge. Their mass was also much greater. Under the same level of gravitational force, the force produced was too great. Not only were the 9 huge vines unable to get closer, their bodies were also bent backwards. Clearly, the vines themselves were unable to resist the force produced by the gravitational force. Under my gravity domain, the bigger the body, the more disadvantageous it would be. Dongbo Shuiying's speed didn't decrease as he rushed towards the nearest array disk. Under his true meaning of gravity, these vines are truly unable to trap the enemy. The handsome youth, Lai Hua, shook his head. Fortunately, this Dongbo Shuiying only dares to maintain the repulsive force. Although he expected that the effects of this array would be limited, it would be a waste if he didn't activate it. Another more important array was activated at the same time. For a powerful transcendent wizard, activating 2 magic arrays was a piece of cake. Originally, the long vine array was very important. But under the influence of gravity, it was no longer as important. The second array was more important to the reincarnators of the temporal temple. Countless colorful lights appeared out of nowhere. These colorful lights were like fishes in the water. They swam about in a radius of several tens of kilometers, causing the surroundings to be extremely beautiful. Spatial ripple. Suppress. The handsome youth was using his true meaning to control all the colorful lights. The colorful lights produced by the array were extremely powerful, and they were used to complement his domain-type technique. This caused the power of his move to increase explosively. Under the control of the true meaning, countless colorful lights surged towards Dongbo Shuiying. This caused Dongbo Shuiying's expression to change slightly. Why are there so many colorful lights? The transcendent Do Qi on the surface of Dongbo Shuiying's body abruptly burst forth, bringing with it the might of the true meaning of stars that shot out in all directions. However, these colorful lights were like flowing water, and when Dongbo Shuiying's fiery red Do Qi shot out, the colorful lights would disperse without suffering any damage. The colorful light surging in from the surroundings increased rapidly, and the speed of the colorful light was simply too fast. In the blink of an eye, all the colorful light within a radius of several dozen kilometers had gathered within a radius of 10 meters around him. They completely wrapped around themselves. So uncomfortable. Dongbo Shuiying felt as if he was a mortal in water. The true meaning of stars was an extremely defensive true meaning. At the same time, it was also extremely powerful. Every single movement of Dongbo Shuiying could easily break through these colorful lights. However, the countless colorful lights continued to surround him. Even though mortals could easily break through the water, every single movement of theirs would still be met with resistance. At this moment, Dongbo Shuiying was the same. These colorful lights could easily break through, but the resistance was too great. He has been suppressed by me and his combat power has been greatly reduced. Kill him. The handsome youth, Lai Hua's eyes were filled with anticipation as he transmitted the order. The grade 2 true meaning he grasped was the spatial ripple. It was formed from the combination of the grade 3 true meanings, the true meaning of ripple, the true meaning of heavenly light, and 2 other space-related true meanings. Die. The succubus took out her blood-colored bow, pulled it back and released an arrow. The arrow left behind a blood-colored trail as it flashed past. Transcendence of the Xia people, die. The black metal construct male, who did not dare to approach from afar, took out a short spear. His terrifying strength and true meaning were imbued into the short spear, and he abruptly threw it out. In terms of strength, he was the strongest in the team. Kill. The handsome youth also displayed his own technique. So. He punched out with his fists, sending out waves of black flame chi at an astonishing speed towards Dongbo Shuiying. Of course, as transcendent knights, they were actually the most formidable in close combat. At this moment, their long-range attacks were comparatively weaker. There was no helping it. They were not willing to get close to Dongbo Shuiying until the very last moment. That was because getting close to him represented the danger of death. The second plan did not include close combat. Die. The red-robed girl took out a dark blue scroll. It was a peak demigod grade spell scroll. In terms of long-range attacks, transcendent mages were the ones who could display their greatest might. Furthermore, the most important part of the second plan was this half of the deity grade spell scroll. Hong. The world energy in the surrounding 50 kilometers started surging. At the same time, 8 extremely thin discs appeared out of thin air. These discs seemed to be formed from ice, and their edges were extremely sharp. Xiu xiu xiu. These 8 discs flew towards Dongbo Shuiying at a frightening speed. They cut through everything in their path, and their might caused Dongbo Shuiying's expression to change. Not good. Dongbo Shuiying felt the danger of death. He could disregard the attacks of others, but those ice discs were peak demigod-grade spells. If he allowed them to land on his body, they would definitely be able to cut through his body. The purple-robed blade devil stood far away. The demon Jier Luo did not make a move either. One of them was a newbie, while the other was a demon that specialized in close combat. Neither of them had any suitable long-range attacks. The fastest to attack was the handsome youth, Lai Huo's black flame Do Qi, which carried waves of energy as it rapidly attacked. The spear in Dongbo Shuiying's hands easily blocked the incoming transcendent qi. The true meaning of star was, after all, a grade 2 true meaning, just like extreme piercing. Its gravitational force was just a side effect. More importantly, Shuiying's entire body was like a star. His body's defense was as hard to shake as the earth. Every move he made was like a star smashing down with boundless strength. Thus, under the suppression of the spatial ripple, Dongbo Shuiying's strength was not as great as these reincarnators thought. It only decreased by about 20%. The spear was blocked. The spear easily blocked the incoming black flame qi. However, a powerful shockwave was still transmitted to Dongbo Shuiying's hands after being weakened by the stellar fire cloud spear. It then tunneled into his body. However, Dongbo Shuiying's body was protected by the true meaning of star, allowing him to forcefully block it. If I didn't have any weapons to block it, I'm afraid I would have been injured. Dongbo Shuiying immediately estimated the power of his opponent's attack. Just a long-range attack and I would still be injured if I took it head-on? His true meaning of star was famous for its powerful defense. Even if he took it head-on, he would still be injured? Furthermore, these colorful ripples are also being suppressed by him. Dongbo Shuiying glanced at the handsome youth in the distance. He immediately treated him as his most important opponent. Pupiu. The stellar fire cloud spear moved like lightning. With a simple block, it managed to deflect an arrow and a short spear. Hoo. Due to the slow condensation of the spell, the true killing move arrived. One could only see space being sliced apart. 8 ice discs flew towards Shuiying at high speed from all directions. The power of the attack made Shuiying's heart tremble. If the handsome youth's long-range attack could injure him, then these ice discs could kill him. Too fast. Dongbo Shuiying couldn't be bothered with anything else. He flew at high speed and dodged the incoming attacks. However, the 8 ice discs continued to surround him. The red-robed lady's cultivation base was very high, comparable to some demigod mages. Thus, she was still able to control the spells formed from the scrolls with great agility. Block. With all his attention focused on the 8 ice discs, Dongbo Shuiying didn't dare to be careless. His spear instantly drew an arc in the air as he defended with all his might. A sound of collision. The stellar fire cloud spear, which carried the true meaning of star, clashed with the ice discs. The ice discs shattered and Dongbo Shuiying only felt his hands trembling. A powerful shockwave spread through his entire body. His body was protected by his true meaning and the demigod robe. The shockwave was ultimately just brute force. It didn't pose much of a threat. But the other 7 ice discs arrived as well. This was the most terrifying part of this spell. The 8 ice discs attacked at the same time, surrounding and attacking at the same time. If even one of them failed to block, his life would be in danger. Block. Dongbo Shuiying defended with all his might. His spear was as fast as lightning, and it formed a series of afterimages. These revolving afterimages of the spear vaguely resembled the stars and the earth revolving slowly. Ping ping ping. A series of collisions rang out. Dongbo Shuiying's heart was in his throat. He displayed all the defensive methods of his spear art. The sharp edges of the ice discs closed in on him time and time again. Ping ping ping. At this time, other than the 8 ice discs, the streaks of black flame battle chi were also coming at him. Dongbo Shuiying relied on his movement technique to dodge. If he couldn't dodge, he took it head-on. His spear was completely focused on defending against the 8 ice discs. As for the other attacks that weren't life-threatening, he temporarily threw them to the back of his mind. One after another, the streaks of black flame battle chi landed on Dongbo Shui Ying's body. The true meaning of star, which was famous for its defense, was displaying its might at this moment. Furthermore, there was even a demigod robe protecting his body. Ultimately, the remnant shockwaves only caused Dongbo Shui Ying's internal organs to tremble. He could taste blood in his throat, saying it was slow. In reality, it was as fast as lightning. Whew! Dongbo Shui Ying heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. In that instant, he was finally able to defend against the 8 ice discs. Naturally, there were 12 streaks of black flame battle chi that landed on his body. Fortunately, his true meaning of star was strong enough. With the help of the demigod robe, his internal injuries were still fine. It was just that blood had flowed into his mouth. Pooh! After spitting out a mouthful of blood, Dongbo Shui Ying felt much better. The 8 ice discs were truly terrifying. However, Dongbo Shui Ying didn't dare to be careless. The coordination of the temporal temple's reincarnators was truly formidable. They were actually able to force him to such a state in an instant. If his defense was slightly weaker, he would have lost his life. End of second watch. Chapter 217. Kill? After dealing with this dangerous situation, Dongbo Shui Ying did not dare to hesitate. He immediately charged towards the nearest array disc. As long as he destroyed this array disc, he would be able to use his extreme piercing to appear at any location within a 50-kilometer radius. He would then be able to destroy them one by one. The Temporal Temple's team would no longer be able to surround him. Plan 2 has failed. Plan 3. Let's go all out. The handsome youth's expression was savage. Go all out. Although the black metal man's speed was very slow due to the repulsive force, he still gritted his teeth and charged forward. The succubus, demon Jier Luo, and the newbie Blade Devil were all closing in at high speed. Freeze! The red-robed woman looked at Dongbo Shui Ying from afar and executed her technique. Dongbo Shui Ying only felt his vision turning red. A huge red lotus had already enveloped him. Break! The stellar fire cloud spear spun at a shocking angle. The spear tip pierced the red lotus in front of him. The moment the true meaning of extreme piercing was activated, the red lotus instantly disintegrated. Everyone be careful. His defense is extremely strong. He was able to withstand my shockwave kill 12 times. His defense is stronger than any of us. At the same time, he is also extremely strong. He was able to withstand a peak stage demigod's attack while maintaining his balance. His strength must be terrifying. The handsome youth transmitted a message. At the same time, his speed was the fastest. He was even faster than Dongbo Shui Ying. His body flew with a strange undulation, and he was the first to reach Dongbo Shui Ying. Demon Jier Luo was the second to reach. Even though Shui Ying was already very fast, he was still affected by the red lotus flower. Before he could kill his way to the array disc, he had already met with these two opponents who were continuously attacking him. Scram! The spear lashed out fiercely. The spear handle was like a whip and it was like a shooting star. The handsome youth was wearing gloves on both of his hands. He was able to softly deflect the force. Both of his hands were covered in dense undulations. When his hands clashed with the spear, a terrifying force exploded. What a powerful force! Although he had already expected it, he was still shocked and his whole body flew backwards. Dongbo Shui Ying furrowed his brows. This handsome young man was indeed his biggest enemy. When he swept his spear towards him, he felt as though he was sweeping through the void. He's a human, it's very difficult for him to cultivate an immortal body. As long as we pierce through his skull, I'm afraid he'll die. At the same time, the handsome youth transmitted his voice to the others. Close combat pierced through his skull. All right. It was accompanied by a deep roar. Demon Jier Luo's sharp claws turned into claws, which simultaneously enveloped Dongbo Shui Ying. At the same time, the 5 sharp blades on his gauntlets glowed with a dazzling golden light. These golden lights converged and compressed together, producing a huge change. It was obvious that an extremely violent and ruthless power was accumulating, and it would explode the moment the sharp claws caught its target. Pooh! It was too fast. Even though Dongbo Shui Ying was completely enveloped by a large amount of colorful light, the spatial ripple was suppressing and restricting him. However, his spear thrust was still astonishingly fast. With a rotation, the tip of the spear seemed to be the most terrifying point in the world. Extreme point. Pierce. Pung. When Demon Jier Luo faced this spear, he finally understood how terrifying extreme piercing was. Facing this spear, he couldn't even think of anything else. There was only one thought in his mind: defend against it. Pupiu, it was too fast. In an instant, Dongbo Shuiying thrust his spear 3 times in a row. The first thrust numbed Demon Jier Luo's hands, the second thrust made him flustered, and the third thrust, he could no longer block it and his head was pierced through. Although the Demon Jier Luo's body was extremely strong, capable of withstanding the attacks of an ordinary Tier 5 demon, Jier Luo's extreme piercing was still no match for it. Extreme piercing is too fast. This scene sent a chill down everyone's spine. Extreme piercing could pierce through the void, and its speed was even faster than the spatial fluctuations. Even though it could no longer pass through the void due to the formation, its speed in the material world did not slow down at all. It was still as terrifying as before. Jier Luo, don't fight him head-on. The handsome teenager transmitted a message. At the same time, his body flashed and he closed in once again. With a wave of his hand, he blocked Dongbo Shuiying's spear. Damn it, I've been countered by him. Jier Luo clenched his teeth in dissatisfaction. His true meaning of golden brilliance was also extremely violent and ferocious. Currently, he had even comprehended the true meaning of Space Edge and was about to fuse it with his true meaning of Space Edge. What he pursued was that kind of explosive power. As for extreme piercing, its offensive power was also extremely strong. When the two of them clashed, extreme piercing's slight advantage in speed allowed him to obtain victory in just 3 spear strikes. At this moment, the importance of defense could be seen. For example, the handsome teenager's defensive techniques were even better. Even if he was at a disadvantage, he could still hold on and not be defeated in a few moves. Fantasy Domain Descent. The succubus was the third to close in. Her pair of charming eyes were like endless whirlpools. A ripple enveloped Dongbo Shuiying. And Dongbo Shuiying's expression changed slightly. In an instant, Jier Luo and the handsome teenager disappeared without a trace. There was no longer a single opponent in the vicinity. All the demons and experts from the temporal temple had disappeared. Fantasy domain? Dongbo Shuiying thought, pulling my consciousness into the fantasy domain? Compared to the mirage, the fantasy domain is really crude. The true meaning of fantasy domain was a grade 4 true meaning. If it were to evolve, there was hope for it to become a grade 3 true meaning, the true meaning of fantasy world. If it were to evolve further, it would be the heaven-defying grade 2 true meaning, the true meaning of mirage. The true meaning of fantasy world and true meaning of illusions were both grade 3 true meanings. They were, in fact, specialized in different aspects. The fantasy domain focused on the word, world. It specialized in dragging the enemy's consciousness into the fantasy domain, causing them to sink into it for eternity. The true meaning of illusions focused on the word, elephant. It allowed one to form many illusion avatars. For example, it could form dozens of Dongbo Shuiying. Some of them even had extremely powerful combat power. Both of them represented different directions. Dongbo Shuiying had started comprehending the true meaning of mirage from the very beginning. Currently, his embryonic form of the true meaning of mirage had reached its final bottleneck. He only needed to make up for some of the flaws before he could reach large success and grasp the true meaning of mirage. What Dongbo Shuiying lacked now were the aspects of the fantasy domain. The fantasy domain of this succubus was also related to the fantasy domain. Furthermore, it was a complete true meaning of fantasy domain. Dongbo Shuiying's eyes brightened when he saw it. He had discovered something that he lacked. Even though Dongbo Shuiying had yet to grasp the true meaning of mirage, he could at least control the mirage. The mirage was the final form of the fantasy domain. Thus, this crude fantasy domain was nothing more than a joke to him. His consciousness has been pulled into the fantasy domain. The handsome teenager saw that Dongbo Shuiying seemed to be stunned. He could not help but be overjoyed. He transmitted a message to the others: everyone hurry up and take action. Before his soul struggles to escape from the fantasy domain, let's take the opportunity to kill him. Pulled into the fantasy domain? Our chance has come. They were all overjoyed. Even though they had a strand of hope, they did not dare to hope for too much. After all, such a heaven-defying transcendent who could comprehend such a powerful true meaning should have a strong spirit. It would be extremely difficult to pull a transcendent with such a spirit into the fantasy domain. But, who knew? Who knew if Dongbo Shuiying had some flaws in his spirit? There was a saying, there was no true meaning of absolute invincibility. Of course, this saying excluded the possibility of a grade 1 true meaning. A grade 1 true meaning was a truly perfect true meaning. As for the others, they had all sorts of flaws and weaknesses. As long as there was a weakness, it would be targeted. It was not impossible for an expert to die after falling into the fantasy domain due to a flaw in his spirit. Kill. The axe in the black metal-clad male's hand chopped down with all his might, directly striking Dongbo Shuiying's waist. The true meaning of star easily blocked the attack. Dongbo Shuiying seemed to have reflexively stabbed out with the spear in his hand. It was as fast as lightning. It directly pierced through the chest of the black metal-clad male. His tyrannical body began to crumble apart. Pu. Dongbo Shuiying seemed to be frantically attacking his surroundings in panic. One could only see his spear flying about, either furiously stabbing out or whipping out. In an instant, his surroundings were within his attack range. The black metal-clad male's collapsed body floated far away and rapidly recovered. He was also drenched in cold sweat. Your attack just now has caused his body to receive an impact. The handsome teenager Lai Hua transmitted, "Everyone be careful. Although he has been pulled into the fantasy domain, his body and soul are closely connected. If his body receives an impact, he will definitely feel it." He must have realized that he is in the fantasy domain. Even though he is frantically attacking his surroundings in panic, "Everyone don't worry. He can't see us. He is a blind man. We have to hurry up and kill him before he escapes from the fantasy domain." Dongbo Shuiying seemed to be frantically attacking his surroundings, but in reality, it was just a disguise. He was carefully observing this simple and crude true meaning of the fantasy domain. Those who were attacking him were all within his observation range. That black metal-clad male's true meaning was the weakest, and his combat power was the weakest. Even Dongbo Shuiying could roughly see through the level of the laws of profound mysteries contained in his axe. It was just like how Sikong Yang, Palace Lord Qin, and the others saw Dongbo Shuiying using the embryonic form of extreme piercing and determined that it was an embryonic form of a grade 2 true meaning. By the same logic, Dongbo Shuiying was able to determine that the black metal-clad male was merely at the stage 2 realm of a grade 4 true meaning. Other than his strength, his comprehension of the laws of profound mysteries was really weak. That was why he had purposely received this attack. Of course, with the defense of the true meaning of star, it could even withstand an attack from a grade 2 true meaning. Ho, Shuiying was panicking and crazed as he frantically attacked in all directions. However, his mind was still very calm as he observed the situation. Ping. His extremely fast and berserk attacks coincidentally sent Jier Luo flying once. This caused the blade demon, who was like a stream of lightning, to be heavily injured. Understood. Dongbo Shuiying was suddenly overjoyed. He had finally grasped the final strand of the true meaning of mirage. Chapter 218. Through the essence of nature, Dongbo Shuiying discovered that behind the real world, there was a corresponding illusory world. And in the real world were like two sides of the same coin. The mirage represented the pinnacle of illusory. Dongbo Shuiying grasping hold of the true meaning of mirage was just an important step forward. He had only crossed this threshold. From here on, the true meaning of mirage could continue to improve, stage 2, stage 3, or even condense a true deity heart. Even so, grasping hold of the initial stage of the true meaning of mirage was already a terrifying deterrent. In the deity world there was a saying regarding true meanings. One would rather meet an enemy who grasped hold of another grade 2 true meaning than an enemy who grasped hold of the true meaning of mirage. The pure offensive power of the true meaning of mirage was extremely weak, even weaker than many grade 3 true meanings. But it represented the pinnacle of illusory, forming its own world. Experts who grasped hold of it could be considered the most terrifying assassin. Walking in the mirage, killing without leaving a trace, was not an exaggeration. The world around Dongbo Shuiying suddenly distorted. His body disappeared from the real world, arriving in the mirage. It was like a mirror of the real world. It looked exactly the same. But with a thought from Dongbo Shuiying, everything within the mirage could change. How interesting. Dongbo Shuiying walked in this vast mirage. He walked to the side of the black metallic male and patted his face. His palm passed through the mirage and entered the real world, slapping the black metallic male's face. It's an illusion, an illusion. The black metallic male frantically attacked in all directions. At this moment all of them, including the demons, had their consciousness pulled into the mirage controlled by Dongbo Shuiying. But in the mirage, they would see whatever Dongbo Shuiying wanted them to see. If he did not want them to see, they would not be able to see. This metal race expert only realized that he had fallen into an illusion after his face was slapped. I walk in the mirage but I can attack enemies in the real world. Dongbo Shuang thought to himself. Enemies in the real world, unless they have a method to attack the mirage realm, otherwise they won't be able to hurt me. How terrifying. As expected of the pinnacle of illusion, real power is so powerless in front of it. Even if he had the power to destroy the world, if the laws of profound mysteries couldn't attack the mirage, he wouldn't be able to hurt Dongbo Shuang at all. The offensive power of the true meaning of mirage was very weak. But, other than the true meaning of mirage, Dongbo Shuang had also grasped the true meaning of extreme piercing and star. The three great true meanings complemented each other, which was much more powerful and heaven-defying. I can't believe there are two people who can break free from the ethereal realm. Dongbo Shuang glanced at the handsome young man and the red-robed woman not far from them. The red-robed woman was a very powerful sorcerer. Her realm was similar to that of the handsome young man. Another wizard. Sorcerers had extremely high attainments in the aspect of the soul and spirit. It was normal for her to be able to break free from the ethereal realm. However, that handsome young man was actually able to do so as well. This was out of Dongbo Shuang's expectations. Although he had just grasped the true meaning of mirage and was only at the stage 1 realm, it was still extremely difficult for him to break free from it. Let's not waste any more time. Dongbo Shuang walked in the ethereal realm. Although he could control the mirage doppelgangers to kill his enemies, his true body didn't even need to make a move. This was a common move used by experts who grasped the true meaning of mirage. Even if they could attack the ethereal realm, if they couldn't find the true body, they wouldn't be able to injure the experts within the ethereal realm. However, Dongbo Shuang wasn't willing to waste any more time. After all, that handsome young man Lai Hua and the red-robed woman had already regained their consciousness. It was better to act as soon as possible. Who? Dongbo Shuang took a step forward and arrived beside the handsome young man. His spear pierced out. The stellar fire cloud spear was as fast as lightning. The spear left the ethereal realm and entered the real world. By the time the spear appeared, it was already at the forehead of the handsome young man. Pooh. True meaning of extreme piercing. It directly pierced through the protective true meaning of spatial ripple on the surface of his body. Although this true meaning's defense was not bad, it was clearly unable to directly defend against extreme piercing. The handsome young man Lai Hua was terrified. Fortunately, he had a unique treasure in his soul. When his soul was pulled into the ethereal realm, it automatically protected him and helped him break free from the ethereal realm. The handsome young man looked at everything in front of him. In the distance, the succubus girl, the black metal construct male, the newcomer blade devil, and the demons were flying around randomly. Some were attacking the void randomly while others were fighting to the death. It was as though they were treating each other as enemies. Luckily, Red Leaf is awake. The handsome young man also saw the red-robed woman. In this team, the two of them were the strongest. Before he could think of anything else, his eyes were still looking at the red-robed woman. A spear suddenly appeared in front of his forehead and pierced through his head. His eyes were wide open. Just like that he died? If he were to fight against Dongbo Shuang, who had extreme piercing in the true meaning of star, he could still hold on for a while. However, with the true meaning of extreme piercing, the true meaning of star, and the true meaning of mirage behind him, especially the true meaning of mirage, he was destined to be a terrifying assassin. With just one move he died on the spot. After all, he was still a human and he did not have an undying body. One had to know that many demigods of the Xia people did not have an undying body. In order to obtain an undying body, demons and primordial life forms had to rely on their innate talent. Alternatively, they could awaken their primordial bloodline once and spend 1 million kilograms of origin stones to forcefully raise their body to the middle stage of the Saint Realm. At this point they would also have an undying body. Other than that, or perhaps they had grasped a true meaning that had an undying body. The true meaning of spatial ripple obviously did not have an undying body. The true meaning of spatial ripple had a decent defense and could also resist the true meaning of gravity. However, the pure extreme piercing had directly pierced through his head and killed him on the spot. The red-robed lady, Red Leaf, was also extremely shocked. What a terrifying illusion technique. Even with my soul cultivation and spirit cultivation, I could only struggle out of it with all my might. Some of the others were randomly flying around, some were randomly attacking the void, and some were killing each other. Clearly they were all within the illusion realm. Blazing Flame is awake. Red Leaf also saw the handsome youth in the distance. Suddenly she looked on in shock. She saw a spear appear from the void, right in front of the handsome youth's forehead. With a piu-chi sound, it pierced through his protective true meaning and pierced through his head. Their team's most outstanding team leader, Blazing Flame, had died just like that. At the same time, the red-robed lady, the black metal construct male, the succubus and the rookie blade demon all received the same message in their minds. Mission difficulty increased. Mission difficulty increased. Something unexpected happened. Mission difficulty increased to the nightmare grade. When heading to the billions of worlds to train, the members of the Temporal Temple all knew a rule: be careful not to mess around. Because they had suddenly provoked a terrifying existence, the difficulty of the mission suddenly increased. With the increase in difficulty, the rewards for completing the mission were similarly high. However, if they could not complete the mission, they would be in deep trouble. Thus, when they had a certain level of confidence, it was fine to take some risks for the sake of treasures. However, if they were not confident, the increase in difficulty would be fatal. Nightmare grade? This mission was previously the hard grade. Under normal circumstances, half of the members would die. Above that was the hell grade mission with a slim chance of survival. Above that was the highest grade, nightmare grade. Nightmare grade with a slim chance of survival. Chapter 219. How could this be? Nightmare grade? I'm finished. I just got caught by the Temporal Temple and I've already encountered a nightmare grade mission? Are they messing with me? The newbie blade demon was the most depressed. He didn't even have the chance to display his strength and the mission's difficulty had already risen to the nightmare grade. One must know that the Temporal Temple's highest level of mission was the hell grade. There had to be a sliver of possibility. Only during the actual execution of the mission would there be some unexpected factors that would raise the difficulty to the nightmare grade. Nightmare grade, it's actually the nightmare grade. Seeing the handsome youth's head being pierced, the red-robed lady felt a chill in her heart. Without hesitation, a red talisman appeared in her hand and her soul force drilled into the spacetime imprint on her arm. Give up, I give up on the mission. Return immediately. Return immediately. A mysterious and vast spacetime ripple descended and enveloped the red-robed lady. A black-robed youth walked out from the void. It was Dongbua Shuang. He was frowning as he looked at the red-robed lady who was enveloped by the spacetime ripple. Dongbua Shuang, I'll remember you. I hope we can meet again in the deity world. The red-robed lady's lips moved, but her voice couldn't be transmitted. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness. The value of that red talisman was extremely terrifying. It was given to her by her teacher in the deity world. She had used it to exchange for this red talisman in the Temporal Temple to protect her life. This red talisman could allow her to give up on any mission before she became a demigod. This was equivalent to a life. Although giving up on the mission would result in failure, the price of failure was still bearable. She was killed, it would be terrifying. Her soul would be dragged into hell by the Temporal Temple and she would have to undergo 3 consecutive hell-grade missions. This red talisman. In the entire team she was the only one who had it. It was extremely rare for a Saint-grade reincarnator to obtain such a red talisman. Interesting. Shuang walked out of the mirage and into the real world to observe the scene in front of him. This mysterious and vast spacetime energy caused Dongbua Shuiying's heart to tremble. The spacetime trembled. If it wished, this energy could destroy the entire Xia people's world. It was too powerful. According to the records, the great existence behind the Temporal Temple was an existence that stood at the pinnacle of the millions of worlds, the deity world and the dark abyss. In order for the Temporal Temple to operate, he had paid a huge price to refine an unimaginably terrifying divine weapon. This divine weapon had its own weapon spirit, and it would act according to the orders of its master. It would either capture the life forms of countless worlds and turn them into reincarnators, give them missions, train them, select them, or provide them with large amounts of resources, to help the Temporal Temple nurture a steady stream of experts. I've long heard that the members of the Temporal Temple travel across millions of worlds. However, this is the first time I've seen them being carried away by the spacetime energy. Dongbua Shuang smiled as he watched. Wah! The red-robed woman in front of him was wrapped up and instantly teleported out of the mortal world. Dongbua Shuang didn't even try to attack it. The gap between them was too huge. Perhaps some of the almighty beings in the deity world might be able to deal with this terrifying divine weapon. But he was a transcendent? The difference was too great. Pooh! Dongbu Shuiying continued walking and disappeared into the mirage. While walking in the mirage, he casually pointed out with his finger. A flame-like transcendent chi flew out and landed beside the rookie blade demon. Following which, it left the mirage and appeared in the real world. Appearing beside the rookie blade demon, a strand of transcendent chi containing the true meaning of extreme piercing instantly pierced through the rookie blade demon's head. However, when his head was pierced through, his body was affected by the true meaning of extreme piercing, causing his body to start disintegrating. Very quickly, however, the flowing lightning on his body recovered. Undying body? Dongbu Shuiying was slightly shocked. A human saint actually managed to cultivate an undying body? Xiao. Dongbu Shuiying was only stunned for a moment before he casually shot out strands of transcendent chi, attacking the succubus, the metal race man, the rookie blade demon, Demon Jier Luo, and a few other demons. The rookie blade demon was a human, while the black metallic man was a life form of the metal race. The others were all demons. Spare me, spare me. The black metallic man had long been scared silly by the nightmare grade mission. His soul was screaming, I don't dare to be enemies with my lord anymore. Spare me. Lord Dongbu Shuiying, spare me, spare me. I was forced to do this by the mission. The succubus tried her best to reform her body. Her soul was also begging for mercy, as long as my lord spare my life, I will do anything. I am a succubus and I know how to serve others. I am willing to be your slave. Once the mission was over, they would be forcefully taken away. Hence, they were willing to make any promises. As long as they could live, they were not willing to die. If they died, they would have to complete 3 hell-grade missions consecutively. Moreover, they had to succeed in all 3 missions. If they failed once, their souls would dissipate. Xiao. Strands of transcendent chi shot out in all directions. Dongbu Shuiying watched everything coldly. Spare me? Demons were wantonly slaughtering mortals. Who would spare me? These temporal temple reincarnators didn't hesitate to kill me. Who would spare me? Since they dared to act against me, they would have to bear the consequences. Extreme piercing. Dongbu Shuiying exclaimed in shock. Its attacks are too strong. If I were to use my true meaning of star to attack, I would probably have to kill them thousands or even tens of thousands of times before I could exhaust them to death. The true meaning of star was extremely powerful. It could crush one's body directly. However, it was only able to shatter one's flesh and blood. It was unable to destroy it on the most fundamental level, the particle level. Even an undying body would find it extremely hard to recover from the destruction on the particle level. As long as it was destroyed 8 to 10 times consecutively, one's life force would be completely exhausted. Human, fight me head on. If you have the guts, fight me head on. Jier Luo, who was trying his best to reform his body, roared. Unfortunately, Dongbu Shuiying couldn't be bothered to waste time with him. Finally, one by one the demons turned into nothingness. The succubus, the metal race man, and the newbie blade devil had all turned into nothingness. All of them died. Dongbu Shuiying looked at the empty surroundings. He looked at the large number of items falling from the sky. These were the items left behind by these demons and reincarnators. Some of the weaker items had already been turned into transcendent materials by the true meaning of extreme piercing. It's over. Dongbu Shuiying stood within the mirage. As he looked at everything, he felt an indescribable sense of relief. The assault on the demons' nests had finally ended. Although there were still 2 more nests that he hadn't attacked, the devil generals had already known about it. They had probably retreated long ago. A space-time ripple enveloped the souls of the succubus and the other 2, instantly sending them to the distant abyss of hell. There they would experience a cruel hell-ranked mission. Following which, a ripple was transmitted to Dongbu Shuiying. Xia people's transcendent Dongbu Shuiying, my temporal temple invites you to join us. Are you willing? This ripple emitted a majestic voice. This voice was indifferent and lofty. Chapter 220. Inviting me to join the temporal temple? Dongbu Shuiying laughed. The reputation of the temporal temple was too great. Be it the temple of the earth god or the bloodshed tavern, the Xia people, or the elders of the Xia people who came from the deity world. All of these had allowed Dongbu Shuiying to understand some of the most basic rules. The temporal temple relied on their control over spacetime to investigate the trillions of worlds, as well as what had happened in the past, of course, because there were too many worlds, the deity world and the dark abyss were too big. Even the temporal temple would only know what had happened in the past if they deliberately investigated a certain place. If they did not investigate, the temporal temple would not know either. Even so, the temporal temple was still the best at unearthing the strength of transcendence. They could discover countless talented transcendents from the trillions of worlds. If they were allowed to forcibly take them away, the temporal temple would have become the sole power in the world. This was something the superpowers of the deity world and the dark abyss did not wish to see. Thus, they had long made an agreement with the temporal temple. The number of people they would capture every year. How many mortals would they capture? How many transcendents would they capture? Both low-grade true meaning and middle-grade true meaning transcendents would have a limit. As for high-grade true meanings, they were still allowed to capture grade 3 true meanings, but the limit was very strict. As for the legendary grade 2 true meanings or the legendary grade 1 true meanings, these transcendents were forbidden from being forcibly taken away. They had to be willing. Invite me? Dongbo Shuang laughed inwardly. The temporal temple was not that polite, but they could only invite him due to the rules. If they could capture him, they would have done so long ago. What a joke. In such a poor place like the Xia people's world, he had grasped hold of 3 grade 2 true meanings at such a young age. If the temporal temple were to nurture him with all their might, there was hope for him to grasp hold of a grade 1 true meaning. A grade 1 true meaning represented the core of the laws of profound mysteries. Dongbo Shuiying's current combat power was already heaven-defying, and a grade 1 true meaning would be even more terrifying. Sorry, I refuse? Dongbo Shuiying said. Refuse? Are you worried that the mission arranged by my temporal temple is too dangerous? That indifferent voice calmly said, You don't have to worry about this. Your potential is extremely high. My temporal temple will not let a transcendent like you, who is brimming with potential, die so easily. I can make you a Silver Order God emissary which will give you a lot of authority. The possibility of you dying is very, very low. Dongbo Shuiying smiled. He had long known about this point. The transcendents that the temporal temple took the initiative to invite would receive a completely different treatment from those who were forcefully captured. I still refuse. Dongbo Shuiying continued, I have no intention of joining the temporal temple. This way I can make you a Golden Order Oracle. This is the highest level of grooming. Our temporal temple invites those legendary transcendents with grade 1 true meanings to become Gold Order God emissaries. The indifferent voice continued, You're so young, yet you've already grasped hold of 3 grade 2 true meanings. My temporal temple has many powerful existences, countless resources and countless treasures. I believe you'll definitely be able to grasp hold of a grade 1 true meaning. Furthermore, regarding death, you don't have to worry too much. My temporal temple will protect you with all our might. Even if you die, we will protect your soul and help you reconstruct your body. Gold Order God Emissary. This represented the highest level of treatment. Even if he died, his soul would be protected. There was no helping it. Any apex superpower in the deity world would protect a transcendent who grasped a grade 1 true meaning. They would do their best to protect their lives. How could they take the initiative to let them die? The temporal temple was the same. If Dongbo Shuiying were to join them, they would also do their best to protect Dongbo Shuiying's life. Even though Dongbo Shuiying did not grasp hold of a grade 1 true meaning, but the 3 true meanings Dongbo Shuiying grasped, Extreme Piercing, Star and Mirage, had complementary effects. If he grasped hold of all 3 offensive true meanings, or if he grasped hold of all 3 balanced true meanings, his combat power would not be comparable to Dongbo Shuiying's. Dongbo Shuiying's 3 true meanings represented 3 different directions. This was especially true for the Mirage, which was extremely difficult to comprehend. Experts who could control the Mirage were extremely terrifying assassins. It was just that their attacks were relatively weak. Coupled with the extremely powerful Extreme Piercing. Coupled with the true meaning of Star, which was extremely powerful in terms of survivability, could be said that Dongbo Shuiying already had the demeanor of a grade 1 true meaning expert. Even if he did not grasp a grade 1 true meaning in the future, he would still be qualified to be a Gold Order Divine Emissary. More importantly, he had not gone through too many life and death situations. He had not gone through any crazy grooming, and he was still very young. This caused Dongbo Shuiying's potential to be extremely high. For example, that handsome teenager, Lai Hua, who died previously, had only grasped hold of a grade 3 true meaning when he was captured. After much grooming, he grasped hold of 4 grade 3 true meanings before evolving it into a grade 2 true meaning, Space Ripple. It could be said that the potential of that handsome teenager, Lai Hua, had been squeezed out. The threat of death had left them numb. That's right, numb. The fear of death would cause a transcendence life force to erupt. But after experiencing it many times, they would become numb to it. The effects of life and death training would become weaker and weaker, causing them to no longer have any potential. A mere grade 2 true meaning space ripple might be very precious to the Xia people. But to the apex superpower of the deity world, the temporal temple, they would rather continue squeezing them dry in hopes that they could improve. No matter how many weaklings there were, the help they could provide was limited. Only the birth of a powerful existence would allow the temporal temple to become even stronger. Gold Order Divine Emissary? Dongbu Shuang laughed and shook his head. According to what I know, even with the protection of your temporal temple, you can still be killed by some powerful existences from the deity world. Yes. The indifferent voice calmly said, I am ultimately just a powerful deity weapon that can protect you from many different dimensions. I cannot block all the powerful existences from the deity world, but I will try my best to prevent such a thing from happening. I still refuse, Dongbu Shuang said. Are you afraid of death? The indifferent voice asked. No. Dongbu Shuang said. Freedom? The indifferent voice continued, I can even give you the opportunity to choose some missions. You can head to some of the worlds you wish to visit and experience things that you would never have imagined. Your strength will continue to rise and your horizons will be broadened. The world you wish to visit will not be a small place like the mortal world, but the boundless heaven and earth of the outside world. I need freedom and time. Dongbu Shuang said. Time? The indifferent voice retorted. For example, if I don't wish to take on any missions for the next 1,000 years and just stay in my hometown, you can't force me. Can you do that? Dongbu Shuang asked. That won't do. You are still young and it has only been a few decades since you were born. Right now is the most important time for you to develop. It is also the best opportunity for you to grasp a grade 1 true meaning. The indifferent voice rejected. The earlier you start cultivating, the more important time is. You cannot waste it. When you become a powerful existence in the deity world, it is fine even if you squander 1,000,000 years of time. But right now you have to treasure every single year. Our temporal temple has set the rules for grooming. Even though Gold Order emissaries have many privileges, the most basic rules cannot be violated. Then there's no other way. Dongbu Shuang shook his head. After cleaning up the battlefield and collecting the treasures of the dead reincarnators and demons, he tore open the space membrane. Wah! Dongbu Shuang walked out. Very soon, many figures flew over from all directions. There were a total of 6 of them. They were Faction Head Si Kong Yang, City Lady Bu, Mountain Lord He Chiu Chi Bai, the Scarlet Robed Shi Yun, and the Cloud City Vice City Lord, the Chubby Chen Yuan. Is it settled? Chiu Chi Bai asked. It's settled. Not a single one was left alive, Dongbu Shuang replied. How did you get discovered this time? Was there an accident? Si Kong Yang was puzzled. It's the temporal temple. Dongbu Shuang shook his head helplessly. I didn't expect that my raid on the demon's nest would actually be used by the temporal temple to temper their members. Haha, I've long heard of the temporal temple's great name. But after living for over 1,000 years, I've never met anyone from the temporal temple. Chen Yuan beamed. City Lady Bu was also smiling at Dongbu Shuang. City Lady Bu was extremely beautiful, but she had a domineering air about her. At this moment, the corners of her mouth were curled up as she looked at Dongbu Shuang with a smile. Everyone present was in an extremely good mood. The way they looked at Dongbu Shuang was slightly different. Dongbu, you should know that you've saved half of the transcendence of our Xia people. Shi Yun said. This contribution is truly great. Mountain Lord he also praised. Now that the news has started to spread, it won't be long before all the transcendence of our Xia people know about this. Chiu Chi Bai said, at that time many transcendents will be grateful to you. Haha, your communication wristband will definitely be very busy. What about the other 2 demon lairs? Dongbu Shuang asked. We've also sent demigods to try and surround them. The demons from those 2 lairs have indeed retreated in different directions. We only managed to kill 2 of them by a fluke. We didn't meet the others, Chiu Chi Bai explained. Dongbu Shuang wasn't surprised. This was all within his expectations. After bidding farewell to the demigods, Dongbu Shuang rushed back to his hometown. Junior brother Snow Eagle, you've grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning? Amazing, haha, I admire you. Junior brother Snow Eagle, I'm Zhua Yi. You're too amazing. You've grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning, and you've even saved many transcendents of our Xia people. There aren't many people I admire, but you're the one I admire the most. You're too amazing. Little brother Snow Eagle, you've eradicated 3 demon lairs? That's amazing. In a few days I'll go to Snowrock Mountain to find you for a drink. Don't look down on this sister. Several transcendents had already sent messages to Dongbu Shuiying. Dongbu Shuiying appeared in the sky above Snowrock Mountain. With a single glance, he saw a green-robed girl standing on the roof of Snowrock Castle. Why did she reject the temporal temple? Because her goal was different. Perhaps other transcendents would pursue their own strength and become a deity. But he was different. What he pursued was to protect the people he loved and the people who loved him. The girl in front of him, his little brother, his father, and his mother, all of them were worthy of him using his life to protect them. Cultivation was important, but compared to his loved ones, it wasn't worth mentioning. His cultivation was also for the sake of protecting his loved ones. If he were to waste his time on adventuring in the millions of worlds, pursuing his so-called strength and leaving his family, it would be putting the cart before the horse. If he were to live for tens of thousands of years, he would become an extremely powerful existence. But by then his family would no longer be around and he would be a loner. So what if he was powerful? Even if he was powerful, he would still be a loner. Furthermore, so what if he could accompany his loved ones in the mortal world? He could still become stronger and stronger. Hadn't he already grasped hold of 3 different grade 2 true meanings? Jingqiu. Dongbu Shuiying landed. Crystal tears could be seen in Jingqiu's eyes. She already knew what had happened. Currently the news had spread like wildfire amongst the transcendents. Even though she saw Dongbu Shuiying standing in front of her, she still felt a lingering fear when she thought about how she had risked her life to attack the demon's nest. But she understood that for the sake of the Xia people, it was not wrong to do so. Jingqiu hugged Dongbu Shuiying tightly. Dongbu Shuiying was startled. He could feel Jingqiu's emotions. His heart warmed and he revealed a smile. This was what he was willing to use his life to protect. End of the chapter. Chapter 221. Dongbu Shuiying killed his way into the minor transcendent world alone, wiping out 3 demon nests and causing the other 2 to flee. From then on, the situation in the Xia people's world was completely reversed. Before this, a large number of demons were hiding in various places. They were very confident. This was because they could report to their superiors to summon the demonic avatars of rank 5 demons. Even if the Xia people's demigods chased after them, the demonic avatars of rank 5 demons would still dare to wantonly kill. After all, they were just avatars. Even if they were destroyed, they could recover after 2 to 3 years of rest. But now it was different. They no longer had any helpers. Even if they reported to their superiors, would the demon generals dare to save them? They did not dare. The majority of the demons were still the weaker rank 1 and 2 demons. They were the main force that discovered the Xia people's transcendence. But if they did not have any helpers, it would be very difficult for them to kill the Xia people's transcendence in a single breath. After all, other than the new transcendents, the weakest Xia people's transcendents were at the peak of the sky realm. Coupled with their transcendent weapons, they were confident of fighting against a rank 2 demon for a single breath. Some with a higher realm could even counterattack. Haha, those 5 demon generals must be furious and want to kill you. Within the infernal palace, Lord Qin was walking side by side with Dongbu Shuiying. Today was already the 3rd day of the battle. As long as they have the ability, they can come. Dongbu Shuiying laughed. Only with power would one be able to be confident. The outside world only knew that he had grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning, but in reality he had 3. Especially after grasping hold of the true meaning of mirage, wanting to kill him would become an extremely difficult task. Because Dongbu Shuiying could enter the mirage with a single thought. Aha, you should have this heroic spirit. Lord Qin sighed. Snow Eagle, you've really helped me a lot. In the past few years, I watched as the Xia people's transcendence died one after another. I was anxious but helpless. Now that you've eradicated those demon nests, you've eliminated the greatest threat to the Xia people. Although the following battle will be very long, the threat has been greatly reduced. Dongbu Shuiying nodded his head. This time I've invited you here to tell you something. After all, you've grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning, and your status within the Xia people has greatly increased. Even though you're not an elder, there's no difference. As Lord Qin spoke, he stretched out his hand and a gold-leafed book appeared out of thin air. Next, the gold-leafed book flew towards Dongbu Shuiying. This book records many secrets of the Xia people. Oh. Dongbu Shuiying's eyes lit up and he immediately took a closer look at it. Amazing. The Xia people were able to stand tall in the mortal world until now, and they were even the overlords of this mortal world. His foundation was really deep. There were many secrets that even Sky Realm Transcendence and Saint Realm Transcendence did not have the qualifications to know. Even demigods like the Terrene Shrine and Bloodshed Tavern did not have the right to know. Dongbo Shuiying was still a Saint Realm Transcendent. However, now that he had grasped hold of a Grade 2 true meaning, nobody would treat him as a saint. All the demigods would treat him as an equal. So that's the case. Dongbo Shuiying's eyes lit up. Who would have thought that our Xia people would be able to contact our ancestors in the deity world? Those demonic gods could send down their world projections. Our Xia people's ancestors also had some powerful deities who could send down their world projections. Palace Lord Qin sighed. These ancestors had always been thinking about their hometown, which was why they did not care about the rewards and the price they had to pay. In fact, when our Xia people had once faced a difficult situation, it was the ancestors of the Xia people in the deity world who thought of ways to help us get through it. Amen? Dongbo Shuiying nodded. After reading it, he gained a deeper understanding of the deep foundation of the Xia people. In fact, Dongbo Shuiying had seen some of the clan protection deity weapons in the dossiers of the demigods. These can only be considered as 90% of our secrets. Previously we were forbidden from telling you. Perhaps you have learned a thing or two from other sources. Palace Lord Qin laughed. There are also some core secrets that only the Palace Lords have the right to know. This is to prevent them from leaking out. The demonic faction will always be able to infiltrate through any openings. I understand. Dongbo Shuiying nodded. Know yourself and know your enemy and you will never be defeated. If the enemy knew all the secrets of the Xia people, then destroying the Xia people would be several times easier. Secrecy was a must. Regarding the 3 demon nests that you have eradicated, Palace Lord Qin said. You have killed 9 rank 5 demons as well as many rank 4 and 3 demons. I will give you 1,000,000 contribution points. A normal reward for killing a rank 5 demon would range from 50,000 to 100,000 contribution points. You have helped the Xia people to eradicate this huge threat. I will also give you 1,000,000 contribution points. That will be a total of 2,000,000 contribution points. How about it? Palace Lord Qin asked. Even if he didn't kill a single demon, as long as he could force the 5 demon nests to retreat and eliminate this threat, it would be an incomparably huge contribution. If he really wanted to calculate the value, it was impossible to calculate. Even if it was 10,000,000 contribution points, it would still be worth it. After all, it was the life of half of the Xia people's transcendence. One must know that the Saint-class Transcendent Qi doppelganger that was sent out previously had brought along a few demigod scrolls and other treasures. These treasures added up to a total of 1,000,000 contribution points. And this was just a test. That's too much. Dongbo Shuiying said. Perhaps only the top 10 demigods on the demigod rankings would have such a huge net worth. It's not much. Actually, it's still too little. Palace Lord Qin suddenly hesitated. Snow Eagle, these 2,000,000 contribution points of yours, don't tell me you want origin stones? If you want origin stones, I, the Xia people, can help you exchange for 2,000,000 kilograms of origin stones. No need, no need. Dongbo Shuiying said. Too extravagant. According to the rules of the Xia people, the most demigods of the Xia people could exchange for origin stones was 1,000,000 kilograms. Want more? If you have the ability, get the other demigods to sell you origin stones. Or go to the minor or major transcendent worlds to dig for origin stones. In any case, the Xia people could not provide so many origin stones. Because the total amount of origin stones was limited. There were only so many origin stones. If they gave too much to a demigod, the other demigods would not have enough. Even so, many demigods would rather spend their time to slowly cultivate and absorb the energy from the heavens and earth. Just like body cultivation. For a sky peak to Saint Primary, it required 50,000 kilograms of origin stones. Dongbo Shuiying's current body was that of a Saint Primary. And for a Saint Primary to Middle, it required a terrifying 2,000,000 kilograms of origin stones. From Saint Middle to Saint Primary? The amount of origin stones required would not be enough even if all the transcendent worlds around the Xia people's world were dug up. This was something passed down from the deity world. Thus, the so-called Saint Primary's body would definitely undergo a second awakening, was just a dream to the mortals. It could only be realized in the deity world or the dark abyss. The Xia people did not have many origin stones saved up now. Using contribution points to exchange for weapons? Exchanging for treasures? Exchanging for mage equipment? Exchanging for refiner organisms? These Xia people could all smile and nod their heads. But exchanging for origin stones? The Xia people would have to calculate. Others can't, but you can. Palace Lord Qin said, you have contributed so much and grasped a grade 2 true meaning. We, the Xia people, can make an exception for you. This way your body will be able to reach the middle stage of the Saint Primary, greatly increasing the chances of you undergoing a second awakening. Your combat power will also become stronger. No need, there's really no need, Dongbu Shuang said. He was already prepared to challenge the Black Wind Deity Palace. After completing the challenge, he would also sweep through the major transcendent worlds connected to the Black Wind Deity Palace. A major transcendent world was a huge treasure trove. If he really wanted origin stones, he could just go and dig them up himself. Why should he let the Xia people dig out 1 million kilograms of origin stones for him? Seeing the hesitant look on Palace Lord Chen's face, it was clear that he felt heartache. It was not easy being a leader. The 8th chapter, Black Wind Deity Palace, begins. Star. Chapter 222. You decide. I will not force you. Palace Lord Qin nodded. Dongbu Shuang hesitated. Palace Lord Qin, the deity world warrior that I carry with me is not necessary. Even without it, I can protect myself with my own strength. I can lend this deity world warrior to my junior sister Jingqiu temporarily. Is that all right? No need, no need. Palace Lord Qin laughed. I really do not know what to say about the two of you. If your junior sister Jingqiu becomes a demigod in the future, her strength will not be inferior to yours. If you do not work hard enough, she might even be stronger than you. Oh. Dongbu Shuang was shocked. If I do not work hard, she might be stronger than me? Jingqiu He did not notice. Although Jingqiu was quite talented in cultivation, she could not be said to be outstanding. As long as she becomes a demigod, she will be able to wield the strongest deity weapon of the Xia people. Palace Lord Qin did not hide anything. When that time comes, her strength will be able to suppress all demigods, and she will have the strength of a god. The strongest deity weapon? Senior Shui? Dongbu Shuang was shocked. He had read about this deity weapon in the Xia people's secret book. Palace Lord Qin nodded. That is why one of the protective treasures I gave her is a deity world warrior. It is just that Jingqiu does not know about it. Dongbu Shuang heaved a sigh of relief. That was great. The treasure that Palace Lord Qin had given him back then contained a disguised deity world warrior. Jingqiu had one too. Senior Shui? Dongbu Shuang was shocked. In the future, with his own true meaning, he would be able to defeat all demigods and stand at the top of the Xia people's world. He would even be able to match the strength of a god. Jingqiu would be able to rely on the strongest deity weapon. With the power of that terrifying divine artifact, it was enough to suppress an entire era. So you have to work hard. Don't let your woman surpass you. That would be embarrassing, Palace Lord Qin joked. Not at all, not at all. Dongbu Shuang was in a good mood. You have to help her too. Don't delay her cultivation. Although we, the Xia people, have secretly provided her with many resources, it is still too difficult for her to become a demigod, said Palace Lord Qin. If she doesn't become a demigod, she won't be able to use that strongest divine artifact. Understood. Dongbu Shuang was completely at ease. With a celestial realm warrior protecting Jingqiu in the dark, Jingqiu would not be in any danger when searching for the demon outside. Palace Lord Qin, I want to know more about the Black Wind Deity Palace and its master. Dongbu Shuang suddenly said. With his strength he should have a higher chance. Naturally he had to go and explore this Black Wind Deity Palace. Black Wind Deity Palace? Palace Lord Qin was stunned for a while before he reacted. Oh, it's the Black Wind Deity Palace that is very close to your Snowrock Castle? I remember that when you were a legend ranker, you fell into that Black Wind Abyss, right? Dongbu Shuang nodded. No wonder you are so curious about it. Why do you want to try it? Asked Palace Lord Qin. I'll give it a try. I've heard that no transcendents have ever succeeded, said Dongbu Shuang. Yes. Palace Lord Qin said. Many transcendents have tried. Ever since the Black Wind ancestor created the deity palace, not a single transcendent has succeeded. He's dead, so no one can break the array he left behind? Dongbu Shuang didn't really understand back then. Only now did he understand how powerful the Black Wind Palace Lord was. A dead demigod mage of the Xia people had left behind a deity palace array that even the transcendents who came after him could not break. Palace Lord Qin laughed. It's a bit embarrassing, but Ancestor Black Wind is indeed an extremely powerful demigod mage. If he were to live in this era, he would be an existence that could suppress an entire era. His combat power is much higher than Mountain Lord He's. In terms of spells, arrays, refiner puppets and many other aspects, he has reached an extremely high level. You can go and try and you will know how hard it is to break the deity palace. I've seen Ancestor Black Wind's dossier. He only grasped hold of a grade 3 true meaning, so how could he be so powerful? I've looked through it carefully and it seems that some parts of the dossier were skipped over? Dongbo Shuang asked. He's a mage after all. Using the same true meaning and the laws of profound mysteries of the true meaning to construct spells, there are differences in power. Ancestor Black Wind was an extremely amazing mage. Skipped over? That's because he had some fortuitous encounters. Back then his combat power had reached an unparalleled level. But he could not become a god. That's why he did something crazy, causing his combat power to increase once again. However, some of the secrets related to the Xia people were skipped over, Palace Lord Qin said. You can't tell me? Dongbo Shuang asked. I can't, Palace Lord Qin said. Dongbo Shuang curled his lips. He did something crazy? What exactly was it that even with his current status, Palace Lord Qin was not willing to tell him? Palace Lord Qin laughed. If you want to try, you have to be careful. Although Ancestor Black Wind set up a trap to not kill the transcendents of the Xia people, sometimes the power is too great and if you're not careful you can still lose your life. I know. Dongbo Shuang was very relaxed. Firstly, Ancestor Black Wind did not have any killing intent towards the transcendents of the Xia people. Secondly, he had the mirage. He did not believe that the techniques left behind by the dead demigod mage would be able to harm him in the mirage. If you succeed and if you discover a treasure that will be of great help to the Xia people. Palace Lord Qin hesitated for a moment before saying solemnly, something that won't be of much use to you. You can exchange it with the Xia people. A treasure that will be of great help to the Xia people? Dongbo Shuang was puzzled. You've grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning. Even if you don't succeed this time, you'll have a high chance of succeeding in the future. Palace Lord Qin said. You'll understand when you break into the Black Wind Deity Palace. According to what I know, the treasures of the Black Wind Deity Palace are definitely extraordinary. If not for the fact that taking it by force might trigger some self-destruction, the previous 2 great emperors would have long taken it. Amen. Dongbo Shuang became even more curious. Palace Lord Qin did not elaborate further. What exactly did the Black Wind Deity Palace have? After bidding farewell to Palace Lord Qin, Dongbo Shuang went to the Water Daoist faction and bought nearly 20,000 contribution points worth of various treasures. They were all prepared for his parents, little brother, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong. They could also be used by the descendants of his clan. As for weapons and armor, demigod weapons were of little help to Dongbo Shuang. Middle-grade demigod or top-grade demigod weapons were no different to him. Secondly, the Stellar Fire Cloud Spear was a weapon that was extremely suitable for him. This was because it did not have any runes on it. Why were other top-grade demigod weapons so powerful? It was because they had many runes that could unleash many unique powers. But the Stellar Fire Cloud Spear did not have any runes on it. It relied purely on the material it was made of. It was classified as a middle-grade demigod weapon. Thus, in the eyes of the Xia people, this was an extremely wasteful and extravagant thing. It was said that it was left behind by an alien who died. Just by relying on its material, it was already so powerful. Its material was even more precious than top-grade demigod weapons. Extreme Piercing, the Stellar Fire Cloud Spear, was the most suitable weapon for material rejection. It could pierce through those demigod weapons and create a hole in them. After the new year. It was early spring and it was still very cold. At least in the Water Rights town, there was still snow everywhere. A young man and woman were flying side by side in the sky. Back then I was chased by Xiang Pangyun while escaping. Of course I was the one who escaped. Dongbo Shuang and Jingqiu were flying along the same route that they used to escape. Back then it was really dangerous. If I had really fought on Snowrock Mountain, I'm afraid I would have died in the hands of Xiang Pangyun. After all, his true identity is that of a mutated demonic beast. Look, that's the Blackwind Cliff. Dongbo Shuang and Jingqiu flew towards the Blackwind Cliff. I know. Senior Snow Eagle, you fell from the Blackwind Cliff. Jing Qiu also flew above the black wind abyss and looked carefully. The huge black wind formed a whirlpool that spanned over a few thousand meters. Furthermore, this was only the outermost part of the whirlpool. The lower it was, the stronger the whirlpool became. Back then it was also luck. Dongbo Shuang also looked at the whirlpool. He had experienced a life and death situation here. What luck! If not for the crevice at the bottom of the valley, allowing him to sneak into the underground hall, he would have starved to death. It's not enough to rely on luck without strength. Jing Qiu was dressed in a thick white robe. She said worriedly, "Senior Snow Eagle, you have to be careful this time." "Don't worry, I have the deity warrior." Dongbo Shuang laughed. "Even if you don't believe me, you have to believe the deity warrior." "I believe you." Jing Qiu nodded. "It's never wrong to be careful." While the two were talking. "You two little fellows, why are you chattering on top of my head? Why don't you hide further away?" Suddenly, a powerful aura approached from below. Within the black wind, a huge silhouette could be vaguely seen. Following that, a huge black dragon's head popped out. Its huge golden eyes were staring angrily at the two figures standing above the whirlpool. In the eyes of this black dragon, they were just two ordinary transcendents. "Long time no see." Dongbo Shuang smiled. "You are?" The black dragon's golden eyes were filled with doubt. It couldn't remember who this black-robed young man was. "Do you still remember the mortal young man who fell from the black wind abyss 50 years ago?" Dongbo Shuang smiled. Back then, this black dragon caused him to feel suffocated and terrified. But now, he could tell with a single glance that this black dragon was a powerful demigod refiner organism. Chapter 223. Correction, Jing Qiu is still a peak sky realm transcendent, not a saint. The previous text has been corrected. If the guardian of the outermost perimeter of the Black Wind Deity Palace was already so strong, what about the bottom of the valley? What about the deepest parts of the Deity Palace? No wonder not a single transcendent was able to break through it in the past tens of thousands of years. Shuang knew that there was still a huge gap between his combat power and that of the current number one under the heavens, Mountain Lord He. He could only give it a try by relying on his 3 grade 2 true meanings. Regardless of success or failure, he would still be able to enter the underground palace and enter the major transcendent world through the crack in the valley. 50 years ago? The black dragon's huge golden eyes were filled with doubt. I still have some impression of it. Back then, a black youth was like a phantom, engulfed by the black wind vortex and falling at high speed. Through the dense black wind, the black dragon had indeed caught a glimpse of him. And it was indeed you. The black dragon carefully examined Dongbo Shuiying's facial features before laughing. Haha, who would have thought that in just 50 years, a mortal would become a peak saint transcendent? Fortunately, you did not attack me. Otherwise, I would have died without any ability to resist. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. I will not attack a mortal. Master's orders are aimed at transcendence. The huge black dragon said, Why, now that you have become a saint transcendent, you want to charge in? I do want to try. Dongbo Shuiying smiled. Brat, you should hide further away. Go to the Xia capital and investigate the background of the Black Wind Deity Palace. The Black Wind Deity Palace isn't a place that any transcendent can barge into. Even if I don't want to kill you if I accidentally use too much strength, I'm afraid that the aftermath of my attack will kill you. The black dragon deliberately emitted an aura, causing the entire black wind vortex to tremble. That genius of your Xia people is called Qiu Qi Bai. He could not defeat me even when he was a saint. Even after becoming a demigod and wielding a deity weapon. Although he won against me, I am only the outermost perimeter guardian. The powerful guardian within the Black Wind Deity Palace can easily defeat him. That bit of strength of his is still far from enough. Even he was defeated. Tell me, how can a little saint like you win? Black Dragon had asked. But I still want to give it a try. Dongbo Shuiying grinned. Roar, you a saint-ranked transcendent? You can't even beat me. Come. I'll let you try. The black dragon's head let out a low roar, its voice causing the surrounding space to tremble slightly. The power of the sound waves caused Dongbo Shuiying and Jing Qiu's expressions to change slightly. What terrifying strength. Just the sound waves alone are already so powerful. Jing Qiu was shocked. In terms of pure strength, I'm afraid he's at the peak of the demigod level. Dongbo Shuiying nodded as well. He's so strong and he's only at the outermost perimeter guardian? Jing Qiu exclaimed in admiration at the Black Wind ancestor's generosity. She was also a transcendent sorcerer, and when Dongbo Shuiying told her that he wanted to enter the Black Wind Deity Palace, she specially investigated the relevant information and was shocked. Senior brother Snow Eagle, you have to be careful. This Black Wind ancestor is a sorcerer that's close to the level of a deity. Sorcerers are meticulous, and the methods he left behind can render transcendents who have existed for hundreds of thousands of years helpless. Don't worry, just wait outside. Dongbo Shuiying was extremely confident. Jing Qiu immediately flew backwards directly to the edge of the Black Wind Cliff, and stood at the edge of the cliff to observe everything. The Black Wind Abyss was very wide, at least a few thousand meters wide. The Black Wind Vortex that enveloped the area was incomparably turbulent. The Black Dragon's head was like a small mountain, tens of meters tall. Brat, do you really want to try? This is fatal. The Black Dragon's head let out a vigorous voice. I'll give it a try. Dongbo Shuiying looked down. Tell me your name. The Black Dragon's head said. He had also started to re-evaluate Dongbo Shuiying. Those who dared to give it a try were extremely stupid. Most of them had some tricks up their sleeves. My name is Dongbo Shuiying. Very good. Boom. Amidst the dense black wind, a huge figure could be seen rising rapidly. The Black Dragon's over 1,000 meters long body was fully revealed. At this moment, it was coiled up, and its huge golden eyes were staring at Dongbo Shuiying. Its ferocious aura was completely unleashed, causing Dongbo Shuiying to feel a slight sense of pressure. What great strength! Dongbo Shuiying exclaimed. The difference between the height of an ordinary human and 1,000 meters long black dragon was simply too huge. In front of the black dragon, Dongbo Shuiying was like a tiny speck. The black dragon's huge body also gave the black dragon immense strength. Even Qiu Qi Bai, who specialized in offense, was defeated by this black dragon when he was still a saint. Perhaps the black dragon was weak in many aspects such as techniques and realm. However, just the strength of a peak demigod was enough to stop many transcendents. And this was only the outermost layer of defense. Come. The huge black dragon soared into the sky, and its huge head was already at the same level as the Black Wind Cliff. It looked down at the tiny Dongbo Shuiying, and its golden eyes were filled with rage. Following that, it swooped down and bit down on Dongbo Shuiying. It's starting. Jing Qiu, who was watching the battle from the cliff, was incomparably nervous. The black dragon's aura was too strong. Shuiying watched as the black dragon swooped down towards him, especially the incomparably sharp teeth within its ferocious mouth. As a demigod refiner organism, the toughness of the materials used to construct them was terrifying. However, Dongbo Shuiying was not in a hurry to dodge. Instead, he calmly stood in midair and watched as the ferocious mouth closed in on him. The black dragon was puzzled. Why wasn't he dodging? Was he going to fight it head-on? A saint transcendent dared to fight it head-on? Wasn't he looking for trouble? Expel! Dongbo Shuiying suddenly shouted. A formless domain of laws of profound mysteries immediately enveloped the huge black dragon that swooped down. The huge black dragon's body suddenly tensed up, as though an invisible force had enveloped every single part of its body. Following that, the huge black dragon was sent flying backwards. Although its body was twisting and struggling, it was still unable to withstand this invisible force. It flew backwards at high speed. Boom! With a loud bang, the 1,000-meter-long black dragon was directly flattened into the side of the Black Wind Abyss like a pancake, stuck tightly to the side. Its body was still struggling, but it was unable to break free from the cliff. True meaning of star gravity domain. Ah! Jing Qiu looked at the scene in front of her in shock. Her senior brother Snow Eagle did not even see him move, but that domineering huge black dragon had already been smashed onto the cliff of the Black Wind Abyss. Fortunately, the cliff of the Black Wind Abyss was protected by a formation. Otherwise, with such a force, any ordinary mountain would have collapsed. What's going on? This is... The black dragon's body was twisting and struggling, but it was unable to break free from the cliff. That formless gravitational force was simply too strong. You've lost. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. The gravity domain could cover an area of 100 li around him, but it was similar to extreme piercing, which could cover both close and far distances. The range of the gravity domain was also controllable. Simply put, the area covered by the laws of profound mysteries was the gravity domain. The maximum area covered by the laws of profound mysteries was 100 li away from him. In order to prevent too many mortals from dying, Dongbo Shuiying only covered the area around him and the huge black dragon. If the gravity domain was used against human demigods, it would not have such heaven-defying power. But who asked this black dragon to be so huge? Its body was 1,000 meters long. Hence, under the same gravity, the repulsive force he felt was much stronger than that of a human demigod. Even though he had the strength of a peak-stage demigod, he was still fiercely repulsed by the gravity domain, and he was unable to break free. Aye. The black dragon was infuriated, but he was helpless against this repulsive force. His huge golden eyes were filled with unwillingness and helplessness as he let out a low roar, "I've lost." With a thought, Dongbo Shuang retracted the gravity domain. Only then did the black dragon regain its freedom from the cliff. It was really uncomfortable to be pressed against the cliff just now. "Kid, don't be too happy. I didn't expect you to have such a strange true meaning of gravity." The black dragon was somewhat unhappy. It was too embarrassing to be defeated by a Saint-class transcendent. "This true meaning of gravity happens to restrain me. However, this gravity domain is useless in battle. I'm only the first layer of protection. The other protectors in the Black Wind Deity Palace are much more dangerous." "Thank you for your reminder." Dongbo Shuang laughed. He raised his head and looked at Jingqiu, who was on the Black Wind Cliff. "Jingqiu, wait for me here. I'll go down and see how powerful this Black Wind Deity Palace is." "Senior brother Snow Eagle, be careful," Jingqiu said. At the same time she was inwardly surprised. Didn't her senior brother have grasped hold of the grade 2 true meaning of piercing? Since when had he grasped hold of the true meaning of gravity? She also understood that Dongbo Shuang was displaying it in front of her because he trusted her. South Dongbo Shuang rapidly dove downwards. The power of the Black Wind Maelstrom was like a light breeze to the current him. It did not affect him in the slightest. "I've actually been defeated by a Saint-class transcendent." "I've actually been defeated by a Saint-class transcendent?" The black dragon still could not accept it. He was just a mortal 50 years ago. That year, he glanced at that mortal young man who fell from the sky and did not care about him at all. In his eyes, mortals were as weak as ants. Who would have thought that he would be suppressed to the point where he could not even struggle free from the cliff? His luck is good and he just happened to restrain me. In a while he's going to suffer. I have to go down and take a look. The black dragon's huge body immediately swung its body and flew downwards. Chapter 224. Bang! Dongbo Shuang flew downwards at high speed like a sharp sword. The huge black dragon behind him followed suit. The two of them flew one after the other. A human transcendent. He seems to be only a saint-ranked transcendent. How can he be so reckless? Even the black dragon has been defeated? You guys didn't see it earlier, but I saw it clearly. That black-robed young man didn't even move in mid-air. The black dragon was suppressed and couldn't resist at all. Some refiner organisms living in the Black Wind Abyss conversed with each other. Their strength was much weaker. Most of them were saint-ranked refiner organisms. Since the black dragon had been defeated, they naturally didn't dare to resist. They continued flying downwards. This Black Wind Abyss was very deep. As they continued to descend, they had already entered the ground. When I saw these transcendent refiner organisms in the past, I felt that they were all terrifyingly strong. Dongbo Shuang sighed. From the looks of it, other than the black dragon, which is a demigod, the rest are all saint-ranked transcendents. As for the soldiers and generals formed by the array, they don't even have any intelligence. They only have the most basic of instincts. Their strength is even weaker. Back when he was still a legend ranker, he had relied on the flames of myriad things to kill a black-armored soldier. Kill? Those black-armored soldiers and generals who only had instincts had ice-cold eyes. They didn't have a trace of emotion as they charged towards Dongbo Shuang without any fear of death. Hong! Dongbo Shuang directly released the true meaning of gravity. The terrifying gravitational force acted on the black-armored soldiers and generals. Those weaker black-armored soldiers instantly disintegrated. As for the generals, they also started to disintegrate as they flew backwards, and after disintegration they turned into black fog. The black fog floated in the surroundings and even tried to condense again. However, under the might of the gravitational force, it was unable to condense into a solid form. Dongbo Shuang finally landed silently at the bottom of the valley. He turned his head and looked not far away. There was a huge pit on the ground. It was the same pit that he had fallen into when he was a legend ranker. Let's go take a look at the Black Wind Deity Palace. Shuang immediately took a step forward. Everywhere he passed, under the repulsive force of gravity, all the black-armored protectors roared and charged over, regardless of whether they were soldiers or commanders, were all turned into black fog. So strong. What kind of invisible power is this human transcendent using? This should be the gravity true meaning. The alchemy creatures muttered as they followed and watched from afar. Only the black dragon flew at the front, following closely behind Dongbo Shuang. Dongbo Shuang also glanced at the alchemy creatures behind him and said, Ancestor Black Wind really made a lot of alchemy creatures. There were more than 10 martial saints and 1 demigod, and this was just outside the divine palace. Where did he get so many alchemy creatures, especially the black dragon, which is so big? How many materials did he use? In the Xia people, there were quite a number of transcendent alchemy organisms. For example, the 100 Battles Chamber had a total of 100 of them. However, they were generally smaller in size. The materials used for Sky Realm refinement organisms were relatively poor, so they might be willing to make them a little bigger. But for a demigod refinement organism to be 1,000 meters long? Palace Lord Qin didn't tell me much either. Dongbo Shuang thought to himself, this Black Wind Divine Palace must have some huge secrets. As he walked, he soon arrived in front of a majestic cave-dwelling palace. The cave-dwelling palace was emitting a misty green light, and the patrolling black-armored guards had all been disintegrated into black fog by the gravity. No one dared to obstruct him. The majestic entrance of the palace was 100 meters tall, and it was completely green in color. Open. Dongbo Shuang waved his hand. Boom. A dazzling fiery red transcendent battle chi formed a huge palm that was tens of meters long. This huge palm was extremely ferocious, and its surface was covered with a layer of star true meaning. In terms of strength, the star true meaning was famous. It was as though a star had smashed out. However, it was most suitable to be used to open the door. Following a loud sound, the huge palm slammed onto the dark green palace door. Following the loud sound, the 2 doors were pushed open, revealing the scene within. The interior of the cave-dwelling palace was filled with white fog. White fog. Dongbo Shuang furrowed his brows as he looked carefully. The white fog caused the interior of the palace to be faintly discernible. However, he was able to see some tall bronze-red pillars. Dongbo Shuang. Suddenly, a majestic voice sounded, and the huge black dragon behind him flew to the back of Dongbo Shuang. Especially the huge black dragon head, it was right beside Dongbo Shuang. Dongbo Shuang looked at the black dragon. What's the matter? The Black Wind Divine Palace is where my master cultivated in the past. The black dragon said, my master didn't wish for some weak transcendents to overestimate themselves and barge in. Thus, he set up a simple array outside the Black Wind Divine Palace. He ordered some black-armored guards to patrol. Then he ordered us, the refiner organisms, to chase away those transcendents. To be honest, those black-armored guards and those Saint-Tier refiner organisms are only in charge of trivial matters. Only I am truly in charge of the outermost perimeter. Dongbo Shuang nodded. He could tell that if he didn't have the true meaning of gravity, it would be extremely difficult for him to defeat the Black Dragon in a head-on battle. However, the laws of profound mysteries were as such. No matter how strong you were. But if the laws of profound mysteries were countered, you wouldn't be able to unleash your full strength and would be toyed around with. Amongst my master's subordinates, I am the most useless one. The Black Dragon said, thus I am in charge of the outermost perimeter. The interior of this divine palace is extremely dangerous, especially that white fog. There is a danger of death. Once you enter, you must be careful. Once you feel that something is amiss, immediately shout, admit defeat. Although you will be chased out, at least you will be able to preserve your life. I understand. Thanks. Dongbo Shuang laughed. He could feel the goodwill of the Black Dragon. After all, Ancestor Black Wind was an ancestor of the Xia people. He was still relatively lenient towards the transcendence of the Xia people. This was also the reason why Jing Qiu, Palace Lord Qin and the rest did not stop Dongbo Shuang. However, Dongbo Shuang was ultimately still too weak. His frontal attacks were not even in the top 10 of the demigod rankings, let alone Mountain Lord He and the rest. Mountain Lord He, faction head Si Kong Yang, and the rest would not be able to do anything here. They would be defeated and have to leave helplessly. One could imagine the might of the attacks here. If he was not careful, Dongbo Shuang might lose his life. Dongbo Shuang walked towards the palace alone. The huge black dragon that was entrenched outside the palace was secretly worried. He was very optimistic about Dongbu Shuang. A saint transcendent was already so powerful. This was an elite of the Xia people. He was afraid that Dongbu Shuang would lose his life inside. That would be too much of a pity. Dongbu Shuang walked past the door and entered the main hall of the palace. The surroundings were still filled with white fog. Dongbu Shuang furrowed his brows as he sensed his surroundings. His gravity domain had also enveloped the surroundings. Although he did not activate it, he was still carefully sensing his surroundings. His gravity domain could only envelop this main hall. Any further and it would be obstructed by an invisible array. The array within this Black Wind Deity Palace is actually able to obstruct my gravity detection? Dongbu Shuang was very shocked. Gravity was extremely hard to obstruct, and the difficulty of obstructing it was no less than obstructing his extreme piercing. Moreover, this Black Wind Deity Palace is also obstructing my extreme piercing. This deity palace was enveloped by an invisible force. Dongbu Shuang had tried using his true meaning of extreme piercing, but he was also unable to penetrate through it. This made Dongbu Shuang even more curious. Back then, the reincarnators from the Temporal Temple had also made preparations in advance. That was why they purchased precious arrays to obstruct Dongbu Shuang. However, Ancestor Black Wind was different. The Black Wind Deity Palace that he built had existed for hundreds of thousands of years. It had obstructed generations of transcendence from the Xia people. As expected of a powerful mage that could suppress an era. Even after he died, the deity palace that he left behind still caused generations of transcendence from the Xia people to be helpless against it. Dongbu Shuang exclaimed inwardly. At the same time he became even more cautious of his surroundings. A long spear had already appeared in his hand. Snow Eagle, be careful. I can sense a unique existence spying on you. He is right beside you. A ripple was transmitted into Dongbu Shuang's mind. The source of the ripple was the greenish-gray wristband on his wrist. Chapter 225. It's right beside me? Dongbu Shuang was shocked. Because of the Black Dragon's reminder, he had been scanning his surroundings carefully the moment he entered the palace. The Black Dragon had mentioned that there was a danger of death within the white fog. This made Dongbu Shuang even more cautious. He did not discover any enemies. But the deity world divine weapon did. Hong. Dongbu Shuang did not hesitate to unleash his gravity domain's power. The surging gravitational force repelled everything around him. Regardless of whether it was the sturdy pillars or the white fog, they were all easily repelled by the gravitational force. Although the white fog floated for a moment, it immediately regained its stability. The gravitational force was actually unable to repel this fog. Something's not right. My gravitational force is able to kill ordinary peak stage Saint-class demons. This fog can actually resist it? Dongbu Shuang was shocked. Suddenly, a portion of the white fog condensed into a figure. It looked like an ape and it was wielding two fog sabers. Die. The white fog ape's body was still illusory, but its eyes were filled with lightning. Sila, the two fog sabers were terrifyingly fast. They left behind a trail of lightning in midair before arriving in front of Dongbu Shuang. Although it took a long time to describe, the white fog ape had condensed and slashed out with the sabers in its hands in an instant. Dang. Dongbu Shuang was extremely cautious. His reflex was to stab out with his spear. Wherever the spear passed, a black line would appear in the space around it. However, the space around it was completely sealed and it could not be torn apart. When the spear and the white fog sabers clashed, a metallic sound could be heard. The power of the collision caused Dongbu Shuang's body to tremble and take a step back. Even so, he continued to stab out with his spear. Shwa shwa shwa. In an instant, hundreds and thousands of black lines appeared. The stellar fire cloud spear turned into countless spear shadows that crazily enveloped the white fog ape. Faster, faster, faster. He pushed his speed to the maximum. Dongbu Shuang didn't even have time to think. He relied purely on his instincts to stab out with his spear. The true meaning of extreme piercing was already extremely shocking in terms of speed. At this moment it was on full display. He drew his spear as he retreated, drew his spear as he advanced, and drew his spear as he turned. The traces of black threats were like an inescapable net. Dang dang dang. The sound of weapons clashing was very dense. The white mist ape's dual blades were also furiously slashing. The blades formed by his white mist had the feeling of nothingness of the white mist, but they also carried lightning and were shockingly fast. Speed against speed. Enduring a single extreme piercing wasn't much. Being able to face it head-on for 1,000 times was truly amazing. He actually blocked it. Dongbuo was shocked. This white fog ape is stronger than me, and my true meaning of extreme piercing is more mystical than its saber art. However, it was able to block my attacks head-on. Furthermore, his speed was too fast. His saber technique even incorporated the power of mist and lightning. The black dragon has a large body and great strength, but its battle techniques are too crude. Oh! Suddenly the white fog ape stopped retreating. Its lightning eyes were still staring at Dongbuo. Human transcendent, the true meaning of your spear technique is truly strange. That piercing power continuously penetrates into my saber, greatly reducing the speed of my saber technique. Otherwise, I would have defeated you long ago. This caused Dongbuo to be inwardly shocked. So its speed could actually be even faster? That's right. Although it had blocked extreme piercing, the power contained within extreme piercing still greatly affected its saber technique. You can block one of me, but what about 4 of me? The white fog ape suddenly revealed a cold smile. Its figure started to disperse. It dispersed into 4 illusory figures. The 4 illusory figures gathered the surrounding white mist and formed 4 white fog apes. These 4 white fog apes each held a curved saber with both hands and stared at Dongbuo. For Dongbuo expression changed. Kill. The 4 white fog apes surrounded him at the same time. Their speed was terrifyingly fast and they instantly closed in. As the saying went, 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. It was too difficult to defend against the encirclement of 4. Under the suppression of the gravity domain, Dongbuo spear technique changed. Countless spear shadows of the stellar fire cloud spear danced around. Sweeping, collapsing, blocking, leading, twisting, whipping, sealing. In an instant, a red cloud appeared in Dongbuo line of sight. The red cloud seemed to revolve like the stars in the sky, forming an impenetrable defense. The true meaning of star was formed by the earth containing water, fire, and wind. Although it did not have the terrifying penetrative power of extreme piercing, it was boundless and boundless. Could contain everything. His spear technique was also able to contain everything. It was like moving clouds and flowing water without a single flaw. A single spear was actually able to block the encirclement of 4 white fog apes. What? This human transcendence defense is so strong. The white fog apes were shocked. While defending, Dongbuo spear also contained a surging force. With a sweep of his spear, 3 white fog apes were sent flying. You are split into 4, so it is indeed harder to defend. However, your strength and speed have been reduced. You are still not my match. After sweeping away 3 white fog apes, Dongbuo immediately followed up with a ferocious stab of extreme piercing, piercing through the body of the last white fog ape. The white fog ape's eyes widened in shock. Then it completely dissipated and reformed in the distance. They were condensed from fog. Their gathering and dispersing were unpredictable. It was impossible to kill them. At the very least, demigods did not have the means to kill them. I don't believe that a saint transcendent like you can defeat me. No saint transcendent has ever defeated me before. The white fog apes roared. Oh. The 4 white fog apes frantically attacked Dongbuo. One moment they would surround him. The next they would combine into one, forming the strongest white fog ape. The white fog apes even split into 2. The 2 white fog apes, whose strength had been reduced, attacked simultaneously. However, it was useless. No matter how the white fog apes attacked, Dongbuo was able to block them. Moreover, as the battle progressed, Dongbuo began to ponder more about his spear techniques. He also gained a deeper understanding of the true meaning of extreme piercing and the true meaning of star. Battle was a practical test of his spear techniques. This allowed Dongbuo spear techniques to improve continuously. Go in. The white fog ape, who had retreated a distance away, seemed a little lonely. He stood in the main hall and said in a low voice, "I can't defeat you. I can't stop you. I really didn't expect that I would lose to a saint. Ever since I was born, I have never lost to a saint in the 8 million years since I was born. Never. Ever since he was refined until now. This was the first time he was helpless against a saint. Although Dongbuo didn't destroy him, his body was formed from fog. Even a demigod or a deity like the Dragon Mountain Emperor wouldn't be able to destroy him. Therefore, as long as he couldn't defeat an enemy, it meant that he had lost. However, brat, I am the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper of the palace. The white fog ape looked at Dombo Shuang with eyes filled with electricity. In this black wind deity palace, the other fellows are all stronger than me. Moreover, they will only get stronger. You are still too weak. I advise you to give up. You are already so strong as a saint. Your potential is shocking. Wait until you become a demigod before coming back. At that time, you will have hope of reaching the deepest part of the Black Wind Deity Palace. The second chapter. Chapter 226. I still want to try. Dombo Shuang walked towards the side door of the palace. The white fog ape looked at Dombo Shuang's back and shook his head. He is overestimating himself. This saint is the most promising transcendent I have ever seen. I hope he doesn't die inside. He won. Outside the door of the palace, the huge black dragon's golden eyes were wide open and filled with shock. Its huge head directly extended to the doorstep of the palace and looked at the white fog ape inside. Hey Wulei, didn't you always brag to me about how powerful you are? Are you calling me stupid? What's wrong with you today? You can't even win against a saint? Humph, you stupid dragon. The white fog ape was slightly embarrassed. Didn't I still get defeated? How can I be the same as you? I was defeated by his true meaning of gravity. My body is too big and is restrained by him. Otherwise, I would have sent him flying with my tail. The giant dragon looked through the door and was slightly worried. This kid is forcing his way in. I hope he doesn't die in there. The white fog ape dissipated completely and turned back into white fog that permeated the entire palace. He had been living like this for hundreds of thousands of years. The corridor was 100 meters tall and 60 meters wide. The walls were sparkling like jade and as smooth as a mirror. The corridor was at least 1,000 meters deep. Wielding the stellar fire cloud spear, Dombo Shuang walked alone. He used his gravity domain to scan the surroundings while maintaining an extremely strong repulsive force. After walking for 1,000 meters, a green staircase appeared in front of him. It extended downwards. Dang dang dang. Following the staircase, he walked for close to 200 meters before reaching the next level. Dombo Shuang's expression changed. Boom, the strong repulsive force of gravity forced out a hidden living being at the corner of the wall. Previously, the corner of the wall looked ordinary, and one couldn't see any living being hiding there. However, after passing through the array and reaching the next level, the hidden living being naturally resisted the force of gravity and was exposed. Cheat. This hidden creature seemed to break free from the wall, twisting and transforming into a gray-robed man. The gray-robed man carried a pair of short black sticks on his back. He grimaced in pain as he touched his face. His face seemed to have been kneaded to look like a normal human. I was actually discovered by you. To be able to defeat that stupid dragon and Lei Wu, a saint-tier transcendent like you really does have some ability. The gray-robed man's voice sounded like metal rubbing against stone, hoarse and unpleasant to the ears. But, you're just a saint-level transcendent, it's impossible for you to defeat me. Boom. The gray-robed man approached in an instant. He held a short stick in each of his hands. The short sticks were about 4 feet long and he waved them. The short pole was brandished out. It was as if it was tearing apart the world. It brought along a terrifying power that made Shuang apprehensive as it came crushing over. Even before exchanging blows, Shuang could rely on his gravity domain to sense the surrounding space to determine that the power of this pole had far surpassed his. But the speed of this short pole was similarly frighteningly fast, and he did not have the time to retreat. He could only resist. He didn't even dare to face it head-on and tried his best to divert the force. Chi. The rod slashed downwards, and the spear's shadow collided with it like a swimming dragon. It was incomparably slippery, but Dombo Shuang's expression still changed. His hands went numb and he couldn't help but stagger. Boom. Almost instinctively, the gray-robed man's other hand slashed out with the short rod as well. It was too fast. One rod followed the other like a windmill. It was too hasty and Dombo Shuang barely managed to block the spear in front of him. Boom. Following the sound of the collision, the stellar fire cloud spear's shaft was bent, and the bent spear shaft struck Dombo Shuang's chest. Even though the boundless force of the impact was weakened by the true meaning of star, Dombo Shuang was still sent flying backwards. Fortunately, this attack was blocked by the spear shaft before it reached his body. Boom. The gray-robed man's hands were like windmills, and he swung his rod a third time. Dombo Shuang, whose arms were numb, tried his best to block the attack, but he was a step too slow. One rod, it landed squarely on Dongbo Shui Ying's abdomen. Shoo! Dongbo Shui Ying's entire body was like a ray of light, and he was sent flying, crashing into one of the green steps behind him. Pa pa pa. Dongbo Shui Ying felt that 6 of his bones were broken. Pooh! He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and his face turned pale. Demigod peak stage. Dongbo Shui Ying looked at the gray-robed man with a pale face. In terms of strength, the black dragon had also reached the demigod peak stage. But could the two of them be the same? Those with a huge body would usually have great strength. The difference in size between a human and an ant would naturally be huge as well. By the same logic, the black dragon's body was too huge, and its advantage in size allowed it to excel in strength. However, this gray-robed man was different. He only had the height of a human, but his strength was at the demigod peak stage. Furthermore, his rod techniques also contained the profound mysteries of space. What about him? He had grasped hold of 3 true intents, but in terms of strength, he was only at the level of an experienced demigod. In a head-on clash he was completely suppressed. Boom! When Dongbo Shui Ying landed on the steps, the gray-robed man had already appeared in front of him. At this point, Dongbo Shui Ying did not even have the time to retaliate. Enough! A loud roar. Boom! The greenish-gray bracelet on Dongbo Shui Ying's wrist instantly transformed into a green armored protector. The green armored protector slapped out furiously, causing layers of space to distort like the ripples on the surface of water. The gray-robed man's expression changed. He swung out the rod in his right hand, smashing it directly towards the green armored protector's terrifying palm. The two of them clashed. The green armored protector stood at his original position, not moving at all. However, the gray-robed man was sent flying backwards and landed on the ground. The deity world warrior of the Xia people? The gray-robed man frowned. You are also a deity world warrior, right? The green armored protector coldly said, but a weaker one. I am only the 5th of the 5 shadows. What does it matter if you win against me? If you have the ability, then beat my big brother. The gray-robed man coldly snorted. The deity world warriors that the ancestors of the Xia people sent back to their homeland had all reached the threshold of a demigod. Under the restrictions of the laws of heaven and earth, they were the strongest deity world warriors that could be sent down. The stronger ones had already surpassed the limits of the laws of heaven and earth. The green armored protector's strength was comparable to the demonic avatar of the purple armored skinny demon general. And that demon general was comparable to Mountain Lord He, who wielded the deity weapon. Even the demonic avatar had a portion of the original strength. The green armored protector could definitely be considered as one of the top 10 demigods. Moreover, they had an advantage over ordinary demigods. They were absolutely undying. Even with an undying body, they could still be killed. But they did not even have the possibility of being killed. At the very least, demigods could not do it. Even the Dragon Mountain Emperor, who had become a deity, could not hope to do so. Those that could destroy deity world warriors were much stronger than the Dragon Mountain Emperor. Brat, you are not my opponent. This deity world warrior of the Xia people is very strong. He has the strength of one of the top 10 demigods and he can defeat me. But if you want to pass through me, you must rely on your own strength. Otherwise, you will be going against Master's rules. Going against Master's rules, isn't something a deity world warrior can block. The gray-robed man stood there, the 2 black rods in his hands casually inserted behind his back. Go back and cultivate. Come back again when your transcendent chi reaches the peak of the demigod level. Snow Eagle, let's go. The green armored protector turned to look at Dongbo Shui Ying. The master of the Black Wind Deity Palace is, after all, an existence that could suppress an era. The deity palace that he left behind is not so easy to break through. I know. Dongbo Shui Ying also stood up and touched his chest. His bones and internal organs were rapidly recovering. I didn't expect that after just entering the deity palace and defeating the gatekeeper, I would be crushed on the stairs of the corridor. Dongbo Shui Ying shook his head lightly. He stretched out his hand and the green armored protector immediately turned into a stream of energy and wrapped around Dongbo Shui Ying's wrist. Originally, I wanted to rely on my own strength to break through and see how far I can go. Seems like the gap is too big. It's good that you know the gap is big. The gray-robed man said indifferently, if you didn't have the deity world warrior of the Xia people, I would definitely teach you an unforgettable lesson. The gap is big and I can't fight head-on. Dongbo Shui Ying laughed, but can you touch me now? Wah. Dongbo Shuiying disappeared without a trace. Where is he? Where is he? The gray-robed man was shocked. He looked around. How could he disappear without a trace? Master's deity palace is filled with layers of arrays, and the space is sealed. How could he disappear without a trace? Where did he go? He couldn't find Dongbo Shuiying at all. In the other world, the other side of the real world, AI, who would have thought that I would be forced to use this move so quickly? The black-robed teenager walked in a vast world. This world was like a reflection of the real world, and it was exactly the same as the real world. But this was the mirage. Only those who had sufficient understanding of the mirage could enter this mysterious world with their bodies. The true meaning of mirage had a lower offensive power than a grade 3 true meaning. But in the mirage, it was extremely difficult for an expert from the real world to attack or even discover it. When he reached the entrance of the Black Wind Deity Palace, Dongbo Shuiying discovered it. Teleportation? The space was sealed and he couldn't teleport. Extreme piercing? The Black Wind Deity Palace was enveloped by an extremely powerful force, and the obstruction of piercing was too great. But the mirage? The arrays of the Black Wind Deity Palace could not affect the mirage at all. Experts who could control the mirage were known as the most terrifying assassins. It was easy to obstruct extreme piercing, but to obstruct the mirage, one had to meet an existence with a higher level of understanding of the true meaning of mirage. Or one could completely isolate the world. The real world and the mirage were completely isolated. But these two aspects were too difficult. In the history of the Xia people, other than Dongbo Shuiying, there was only one other person who had grasped a grade 2 true meaning. And the true meaning of mirage was extremely rare even amongst grade 2 true meanings. To meet another person who could control the mirage? How difficult would that be? As for obstructing the real world and the mirage, that was something only a god could do. Who? Dongbo Shuiying walked in the mirage. Where is he? Why did he disappear? How is this possible? What kind of law of profound mysteries is this? How could he avoid Master's arrays? The gray-robed male did not dare believe it. A hand appeared out of nowhere, appearing above his head and patting it. You can slowly search here. Dongbo Shuiying's teasing voice could be heard. Amen? The gray-robed male waved his palm upwards, but the space above him was empty. Dongbo Shuiying had already retracted his palm back into the mirage. What technique has he grasped? The gray-robed male looked in all directions. Dongbo Shuiying was strolling in the mirage, heading deeper into the Black Wind Deity Palace. The Black Wind Deity Palace was protected by layers of arrays in the real world, but it was unobstructed in the mirage. Everything was under Dongbo Shuiying's observation. Under his observation, Dongbo Shuiying discovered many obstacles and dangers within the Black Wind Deity Palace. There were also many existences stronger than the gray-robed male. The Black Wind Deity Palace's terrifying strength was not just for show. But no matter how terrifying it was useless. Because they could not discover Dongbo Shuiying, who was in the mirage, let alone attack him. Chapter 228. In one of the halls of the Black Wind Deity Palace, a gold man clad in a gray robe, whose entire body seemed to be cast from gold, was sitting on the main seat. The gold man had a pair of glowing golden eyes. Just by sitting there, he emitted a formless pressure, as though he was a towering mountain. Big brother. There were 4 figures standing beside him. These 4 figures were the gray-robed man, the red-haired handsome youth, the bewitching and beautiful woman, and the calm and indifferent child who had fought with Dongbo Shuiying previously. We have searched the entire Black Wind Deity Palace, but we couldn't find that Dongbo Shuiying. The red-haired handsome youth hastily said. Old 5. The bewitching woman smiled lightly, and the surroundings seemed to be filled with color. This smile of hers was enough to move the hearts of many transcendents. However, the 4 beside her were deity warriors, so they weren't affected at all. Are you mistaken? Master's attainments and arrays are extremely high. If a powerful transcendent spent time to slowly decipher the arrays he set up, I would believe it. But you said that he disappeared without a trace. That's too ridiculous. He indeed disappeared without a trace. The gray-robed man was somewhat angry. Second brother, you didn't find him either? The gold man looked at the indifferent child. The indifferent child nodded lightly. I didn't find him. I went to the place where old 5 was guarding and carefully searched, but I couldn't find him. Oh, the gold man pondered. At this moment, in the mirage, Dongbo Shuiying was watching these 5 with interest. From their conversation, He had already deduced that these 5 should be the so-called 5 shadows. From the vague sense of threat he felt, each one was stronger than the last. Especially the gold man. The pressure he brought with him was even stronger than the green armored protector who was protecting him. This was normal. The green armored protector formed by the green-gray bracelets specialized in protection. As for the gold man, Dongbo Shuiying deduced that he was a deity warrior who specialized in attacking. The number of deity warriors of the Xia people can be counted on one hand. Dongbo Shuiying thought to himself. However, every single one of them has reached the limits of the natural laws of the heaven and earth. As for the celestial world warriors in the Black Wind Deity Palace, there are weak ones and strong ones. That weak gray-robed man was easily sent flying by the green-armored guardian. However, the other 4 are getting stronger and stronger. Even if they are slightly weaker, they are still 5 celestial world warriors. Dongbo Shuiying was shocked. Celestial world warriors? Those were made by a god and there were 5 of them at once? Dongbo Shuiying also suspected that the white fog ape guarding the entrance of the palace was a celestial world warrior. However, it was a celestial world warrior that was slightly weaker than the gray-robed man. Also, in the depths of the Black Wind Deity Palace, there was an existence that seemed to be from the deity realm. In total, there were 7 of them. No wonder the palace Lord Chen was so vague about it. Dongbo Shuiying thought to himself, there must be some secrets behind it. What? The gold man who was sitting on the throne stood up and said coldly, all of you go back to your own places. I'm going to see that water rat. That water rat, relying on the fact that Master trusted him the most, always puts on airs in front of us. How annoying. The red-haired handsome young man curled his lips. In terms of strength he is even weaker than Big Brother. Logically speaking, we should be in charge of the Black Wind Deity Palace. However, before Master died, he let that water rat take charge of it. The gray-robed man snorted as well. All right. The gold man frowned and immediately left. In the mirage, Dongbo Shuiying followed the gold man. Soon, the gold man arrived at a garden. In the garden there was a lake that was several hundred meters wide. The water in the lake was pitch black. On the shore of the black lake, the ground was as smooth as a mirror. A black rat about half a meter tall was sitting cross-legged like a human. The black rat's whiskers drooped down, and its eyes were closed as it silently cultivated. Dong, dong, dong. As the gold man walked, the earth seemed to shake. The smooth ground of the entire garden started to tremble, and the black lake started to roll. Bossing, it's rare that you come to see me. Do you want to fight every time? The black rat opened its eyes, revealing a pair of bright black eyes. I can't beat you, but you can't do anything to me either. What's the point of fighting? Isn't it because Master trusted me the most and handed everything to me, letting me take charge? I'm not fighting anymore. The gold man said coldly, we are about to be freed. I'm afraid that we will soon leave this Black Wind Deity Palace. There's no need to fight anymore. You mean that human Dongbo Shuiying? What? You 5 shadows have your own specialties but you can't find him? The black rat was shocked. He was in charge of the entire Black Wind Deity Palace's array. From the moment Dongbo Shuiying disappeared, he was already on guard. I can't find him. The gold man shook his head. The black rat frowned. The frown of a rat was quite cute. Suddenly he looked at the void beside him. Dongbo Shuiying, you should be here, right? I'm in? The gold man's expression changed slightly. Ah, your guess is correct. I'm indeed here. However, you can't find me. Dongbo Shuiying's voice reverberated within the garden, causing the gold man and the black rat to be startled. He was really here? The black rat continued, my master has only condensed a deity heart by relying on a grade 3 true meaning. Even though he had some fortuitous encounters and had great accomplishments in the field of arrays, when it comes to true meanings of a higher grade, like the legendary grade 2 true meanings, or even the unimaginable grade 1 true meanings, they are too strange and cannot be guarded against. You should have grasped hold of an extremely strange grade 2 true meaning, right? Is it impossible for me to have grasped hold of a grade 1 true meaning? Dongbo Shuiying teased. His voice continued to reverberate. If you had grasped hold of a grade 1 true meaning, I'm afraid you would have been able to sweep through everything. The black rat laughed. It's impossible for you to be injured by the 5th shadow. Oh. Within this peaceful garden, a black-robed teenager walked out from the void. He was none other than Dongbo Shuiying. The gold man and the black rat looked curiously at this black-robed teenager, carefully scrutinizing his appearance and figure. "What are the two of you doing?" Dongbo Shuiying felt somewhat uncomfortable being stared at like this. "For you to be able to defeat the gatekeeper, Lei Wu, and survive against the fifth shadow, you must have grasped hold of at least a grade 2 true meaning," the black rat said. "You've also grasped hold of an extremely strange and unfathomable grade 2 true meaning. In other words, you must have grasped hold of at least 2 grade 2 true meanings. In the history of the Xia people, other than you, there hasn't been anyone as formidable as you. The most heaven-defying transcendent in the history of the Xia people?" the black rat exclaimed. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. "I've already broken through the layers of arrays and arrived at the deepest part of this god palace. I would like to ask if I have succeeded, and if I can obtain the treasures left behind by Senior Blackwind?" The gold man and the black rat exchanged glances. "Did it count?" "My master has arranged for a black dragon to guard the outer perimeter. This black dragon is a refiner organism personally refined by my master," the black rat said. "As for the gatekeeper Lei Wu, he is a deity warrior. Behind him are the 5 shadows, each stronger than the last. They all have their own specialties, and breaking through their obstructions is extremely difficult. Other than that, there are also the obstructions from the arrays. For example, after defeating the first shadow, you still need to forcefully break through an array. Usually, only someone with a combat power comparable to my master, or in other words, a deity, can break through it. Only after breaking through it can you reach my place." The black rat laughed, his whiskers curling up. "But you can't even win against the fifth shadow. However, I still have to say that you have succeeded." The black rat grinned. "My master only said that by relying on one's true strength to break through the layers of obstructions and arrive before me, the Xia people's transcendence can obtain everything he left behind. Indeed, you have relied on your own strength to break through the layers of obstructions." Dongbo Shuiying revealed a joyous expression. He had actually succeeded? By relying on the true meaning of mirage, those obstructions could not obstruct him at all, and he had arrived here. And he had succeeded? He was just asking, and he didn't have much hope for it. He was still thinking that even if he did not succeed, he could always try again in the future when he was stronger. "Dongbo Shuiying, you have grasped hold of at least 2 grade 2 true meanings. If you are not qualified, who is?" the gold man said. "You have indeed relied on your own strength to break through the layers of obstructions. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."